Hey everybody, how are we? Crazy times. I hope everybody's well across the world. Welcome to the new listeners. Welcome to everybody who's still with us. It's been a mad time. We've got some podcasts still in our archive that have been pre-recorded, and the Four Brothers stuff we will be doing more of because we can. But yeah, I hope everybody's okay out there. It's a strange time, and I really don't know what else to say. Take the positives. I know I've been enjoying being with the kids and trying to put the negative side of it behind me. We can't control it. We just wish well for the world and the people and keep moving forward. So sponsors, Go Deep Flotation and Lincoln Cryolab. Obviously no one's operational. We can't do anything. Just Google cryotherapy, Google flotation therapy, and, learn something about that because it's amazing. So I'm not going to go on about anything other than that. What I will do this week is bring in today's guest, David MacGregor. It's a lovely story. David's from South Yorkshire, grew up in a mining town, Doncaster, a big. I think it's a city actually, and he came from a family that had moved there specifically to do mining, and they got that strong South Yorkshire work ethic and sense of humour. And yeah, it's a really compelling story. David got caught up in drugs and sort of lost his way, and his dad passed away, and he wasn't really around for that, and went off to university and trying to find his way in life, and lost his way, and then refound his way and reconnected with his meaning and with himself. And he's, as you'll hear, it's a wonderful story when he comes back out the other side and finds peace and married with his kids, and he's out walking and camping, and it's a really nice story, redemption. And it's a funny one. He likes, we had a drink and we used some CBD and we had a giggle, and he asked me some questions about my life as well, which was put me on the spot a bit because I'm the one who asks questions, but it's really cool. So yeah, enjoy this episode. I think it's one to soak up at this time. It's really nice. Jane Martin's episode went down fantastically. It was a long one. Looking at our feedback and stuff, I think definitely we need to keep them a little bit tighter because we're asking a lot of everybody. But these conversations they're so fascinating when I'm doing them. I kind of just keep going. But we're gonna try and nip them back down. The same with the Four Brothers, and just keep them sort of more digestible lengths for you guys. But thank you everybody who's still with us, and the new people, the Spain and Switzerland's, there's listeners. It's just, again, I say it every week, but it's just bonkers. So thank you very much. Four Brothers stuff again has been lovely. Pod Bible magazine, big shout to them. We've had a full page in Pod Bible, and we're doing the Pod Bible podcast soon. There's more exciting stuff to come. I did Hardcore Listing podcast with the guys, Stu and Chris. That was amazing. That'll be coming soon, so check that out. We'll link it all in the future as soon as they're available. Pod Bible mag, grab a copy. I've got copies. If anybody wants any, email me. I can send you physical copies, but jump online at podbiblemag.com and check out new podcasts. Find yourself some little gems at this time of need. So yeah, thanks to Pod Bible and everybody who's helping us get our traction and get us moving. Okay, I said a couple of weeks ago in an intro that we were going to start playing music from people. I've got a musical background. I've got lots of musical friends, people who've been on the podcast and musical. We played one of Kieran's songs at the start of a podcast, and we got really good feedback from that. And I love music, and I'm thinking, we can't play licensed music that we don't own licenses for or have access to. So we've been sent a really nice tune, and I think at this time when we're all kind of cooped up and we've been blessed with the sunshine, nods to the gods for that. The sunshine has blessed us, because I think if we'd have been in a grey, windy period in this lockdown, I think we'd all be fucking on the edge of ourselves. So yeah, bless the sun gods. We appreciate that. And this tune has been sent to us by an avid listener of the podcast. Thank you very much. It's from Tube Sound System. These guys are producers, and they've made what I would say has got elements of just an old school kind of disco outside kind of daytime, just a lovely kind of retro disco funky house tune. It's called Preacher. It's got bass on it, real bass guitar, which is the lovely little hooky bass line on it. It's nice production. The lads have done a great job on it, and I think at this time It's one of those tunes that, you know, if you're sat in the garden or you've got the barbecue moving or you've got the doors open or you're just chilling on the sofa, whatever, it's just a little ray of sunshine at this time. So this is Preacher by Tube Sound System, and I will see you on the other side. Cheers, people.
Come on to the altar, we gonna pray for you. You really ain't been to church in a long time. Matthew and Genesis, you ought to have in the bag. Stand for the reading of God's word. Your pastor, I love him, but he's sneaky. Told me I told him I was gonna speak it to him till I tell him. He said, my doors are always open. That's him. So I said, I'd love to come up here and do a service for you. He said, that'd be nice. Yeah, we were talking about how you feel about doing a couple of them, or maybe 3. And then when I got here, he said, it might be 4. But you can't say no to it about what it is. And seeing the multitude, he went up into a mountain, and when he was set, his disciples came unto him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, saying, you can't lose with the stuff I use. 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 Blessed are they which hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. I'm going to stop right there. About blessed attitude. Blessed attitude. I wonder, do you have a blessed You can't lose with the stuff I use. 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 The people you live with. You had one when you was dating. You had one when you first got the job. Come on to the altar, we gonna pray for you.
Welcome to Chew the Chat podcast.
It's different from your general band and the way everyone approaches something.
Well, everything's been condensed, it feels like, doesn't it? Like there's like a formula. Do you know what I mean? Especially in the mainstream, like there's a formula now where we know get the vocal in on 8 seconds, get to the chorus. But
it's about money, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
As soon as you bring money into things, and like there's been a tightening of how much profit people can make from the industry, isn't there? And so then commercial concerns become too important, and then it corrupts the whole process because it's not about art. Art is something that's not necessarily leads to a product. You know, it's about just making a connection. It's about that process between the artist and what he's doing. And that corruption level isn't there when it has that approach. But if you want to succeed and make it a job in the music industry, the opportunity just to be an artist is becoming more and more limited, isn't it? And you're getting squeezed down to
100%
hitting the mainstream, and that's where the money is, isn't it? And unfortunately, the mainstream, I mean, if you think about kids today on estates in towns and stuff like that, they haven't got the spending power that they used to have. There's all sorts of drugs and problems like that. So they've sort of been cut out of the equation. And a lot of music's now been aimed at middle classes and people that are 25 years older. And them people are just not doing it, do they?
A lot of the music that is making its way to those kind of inner city, more impoverished areas tends to be a reflection of the times anyway, you know, like a lot of rap music, grime music is it's all kind of escapism of the system. And I don't know, I'm not that familiar with it, but there seems like there's a theme of, there's a disgruntled energy in it, you know, like young kids are pushing back against that, you know, because that, as you said, the process from a creative point of view, making a tune, it's like, it's a catharsism. It's something that a song maker or an artist just does to get it out. Do you know what I mean? Like, you got to get it out. But then you get a manager, and the manager says, "Right, that's great, but I reckon what we need to do is, you know, to get to this demographic, to get these people to the gig, to then start turning it in. You know, maybe let's lose that there and let's put this in, because then that, like you say, that whole process just fucking goes and goes and goes, and then becomes just literally an algorithm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
It's it's a tough slog. It is.
It is, yeah, definitely.
Well, welcome, David MacGregor. We are on. We're recording. You
Very
are live.
Nice. Very nice.
You're live and direct to me opposite this table. How are you, sir?
Yeah, very well.
You are
very well.
You are
pleased to be with you, mate.
It's nice, isn't
Hanging
it?
out.
On a Friday afternoon, on a January. Is it February? It's February.
February now, mate.
Friday,
February the 7th.
February the 7th, Friday afternoon.
Light nights are coming.
Yeah. The turn is
taking
on.
my clothes off soon. We're in there, mate.
You look lovely under that blue light there.
Thank you.
You are founder owner
Pink
of.
suits you. We're all right, mate.
Thank you very much. You are founder owner of MacGregor Electrics, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
an unwieldy beast, it is. Yeah.
You are a old school tradesman.
I'm a ducker and a diver, yeah. Just making my way in the world, trying to do what I can, mate, innit?
Yeah, well, you got
nothing more than that, really.
You know,
makes me laugh a bit when people say I'm a business owner.
Yeah,
I've got a pair of Snickers and a drill. That's it, innit? And a van. That's it, mate.
And you can knock a Word document up.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
But being your own boss.
Yeah, The
It's never
discipline.
suited me. I've probably had 50 jobs in my life before I settled down to this one.
Right.
And it never lasted, more than 9 months before I told someone to F off or something, because it just gets frustrating.
Well, does that tie in,
Horrible.
do you think? Because obviously you're a big music fan, you're an art fan, you're somebody who's kind of consciously aware as far as I know you. So does that tie into that, do you think? Do you think there's like a... Because it seems like a lot of people who do make music, the artists you just spoke of, they do struggle when organisation and system and you have to do this by this date to fit that, to do this, like that seems to all go out the window. So is that something as a music fan, do you think people who enjoy art can sometimes struggle with that? Do you know what I mean? Like, it seems like
Could be right, mate. I've not thought about it, but you could be right. To have that in you, to appreciate that sort of and make that connection to, like, yeah, it could be that's the sort of person you are. I wouldn't put myself down as an artist. You know what I mean? Just breaking strings on my guitar in a room. Let's not go down that.
But you said at the outset there, like whatever it is, if you're just making noise and you're getting it out of you, if you're compelled to just fucking do something, make something, paint something, build something.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
It doesn't have to be some, pound notes at the end of it. It's just, it's an appreciation, isn't it, of the exploration, I guess.
Yeah. That's where I am at my age, I don't think I've got it in me to dedicate myself to something, and I've got no long-term plans. I just basically follow the philosophy of try and participate in as much as I can, and see what I can get out of life. So, music, photography, I like me walking, camping, hanging around with the kids, all them normal things, but just, absorption in them things and trying to achieve what we're all trying to be happy.
Exactly, and what is that? How do we define that? So you just mentioned there the
smile
kids.
on your face, mate.
How many
if you're
children have you got
smiling
there?
all day, you know a fake smile from a proper smile. If you smile a lot, you're probably happy. If you're not, the rest, when it comes to all the stuff we're told we need to be happy, then
We have to acquire to be happy.
Yeah, come on, that's not right. We all know that's not right.
So how many
Hopefully
how many children you got, Dave?
3.
Last count. Yeah.
Exactly, mate. Yeah.
Well, Tudor Chat. I like to just get to the beginnings of where it is that people I talk to, how it started, where were you born, what were the dynamics, what was childhood like for you? Was it a fun memory? Was it a difficult time? On reflection, do you have different feelings about how it was at the time, and what led you to
amazing childhood?
Okay.
Can't no complaints whatsoever.
Well, take us back to where were you born? What were the dynamics, and take us through.
Memory permitting, really good, steady childhood. My dad was a solid bloke that I can honestly say never let me down. He was around 20 years a mile. I've never let me down for a minute. Always felt secure, always looking after things. Never went to bed at night thinking, God, my mum and dad's cocked up on the mortgage or they're going to split up or anything like that. Really stable. And then coming from a community where the values were all about just getting on with things, really. Not a big material.
So when you
them
say
aspirations didn't really exist for many people. You were looked down upon if you were a bit of a big Charlie and wearing loads of gear and.
So where was this, Dave? Where were you? Where did you grow up?
Doncaster, round Eden, Fort Banbury, Stainforth area. So it's a bit of a mining part, as all Doncaster is.
So that work ethic.
That's why it's there, really, Doncaster, the mines. And when I grew up there, speaking to you about Doncaster, everybody has a perception about Doncaster that's based on now. But when I grew up there, it's a great place. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, it was like ranked in the top 10 places in England for shopping. I remember going on holiday with my mum and dad and going down south and wherever we went, and it was all a poor imitation. It was rubbish, compared to Doncaster. Doncaster, if you took South Yorkshire with all the money from the pits, we had, I think, 3 of the 5 biggest pits in Europe, and miners in the early 80s with a bit of overtime were taking on 500 quid a week. That's big money back then.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And then if you think how the economy, it's all linked, so they're spending that money, etc. It was a wealthy place and people were happy, they were working, amazing. But unfortunately, it was all based on mining. and it's well documented what happened in the 1980s with Mrs. Thatcher. And yeah, now it's the total difference in that. But when I grew up, I can't think of a. I've lived in a few places. I'm not by any means a worldly person, but I was very lucky to grow up there. Yeah, definitely, because it was an honest working class place. Lots of positive role models, peer group, everything. Unfortunately, that's not there now, and it's gone into decline. And now it's
It's interesting you say that, because I was about to say there. When you talk about that kind of where there's miners, where's that physical graft, where there's that commitment to bringing home the bread. Like that permeates through. Like you say, as a young person, you're looking around and everyone's getting on and cracking on.
It's in the ether around you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's like? When you say when you look back at where you're from and living in Doncaster, and it felt like that, and then maybe today it don't feel like that. Maybe not in Doncaster, but like it's like everywhere. When you're growing up, are you thinking not directly, am I going to be a miner? But like, there's just something in you, like where you're just going to get on and graft. You're just going to follow. Was your dad a miner?
Yeah, but no, he wasn't. No. So I never had the intention to go down the pit. My granddad was a miner, and the family moved to Doncaster because of mines, but my dad wasn't. But what is it?
So when you're young,
about the work ethic, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're spot on there. So everybody worked, and it just sets a culture around you, and we're all affected by that culture. Like what I'm saying, though, positive role models, peer groups, people that were doers, not necessarily they weren't materially obsessed. They had a good attitude, good philosophy. They had money, and they're all a bit nuts. What more can you want when you, as you can imagine,
work hard, play hard kind of thing?
Yeah, well, Doncaster exists because of the pits, and everybody migrated to Doncaster because they were in the 1920s, 30s, because of the modern pits. Everybody wanted there. If you're a miner, they were the Rolls Royce of pits, so everybody went there, including my granddad. But you don't work down a pit if you're a nice, sensitive, genteel person. Yeah, so they were all quite physically strong. They could all withstand the hardships of the pits, and it's a bit like natural selection. So they are all huge people. I'm not representative of Doncaster. I'm a bit thin and skinny, but yeah, they're to work down a pit. You have to have a positive attitude. You have to rely on each other. You have to be a community person. So it sort of brings out the best in everybody.
I'm just going to step in, Dave, because you're very animated and passionate talking about this, but you're just banging on that table and giving us like I can feel the pits rumbling. No, I'm with you, and I think, in fact, let's stay where we are. So, brothers and sisters?
None.
Just you?
Yeah.
Just
you.
You
had me, reached perfection at that moment.
And what about uncles, aunties, extended family?
No, very small family. There's big generation gaps in my family. So my dad didn't have me till he was 42.
Okay.
His dad didn't have him until he was quite old. I don't know the exact age, but in them days it was quite old. So there's big generation gaps. So I did miss out on grandparents. Three out of the four grandparents had died or died soon after I was born. But so in terms of family, I just had my grandma, my great uncle, my auntie, my mum and dad. Yeah, I've got family in Brighton, but I can count on one hand how many times I've met them.
So as you're a young lad and you're in Doncaster and you kind of just, without realising it at the time, I guess, you're just looking around and you can feel the energy that's just graft and get on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, strong.
When you go to school, then when you get to secondary school,
yeah.
What's a young 11-year-old Dave like? What kind of kid are you?
Mischievous.
Right.
Yeah, totally mischievous.
Okay.
And that can flourish in Doncaster. You know what I mean? It's a rich bed for if you want to be mischievous, and there's lots of accomplices to get on with that one. Yeah.
Well, because the Yorkshire humour is always wicked as well, isn't it? There's always a strong.
Oh, I'm glad you think that. Yeah,
well, it is.
It's not for everybody, but
no, very dry and just direct
and self-deprecating as well, which I try and pass on to my children, because I do think that is one anecdote to the way we live our lives today. You know, a bit of self-deprecation, not to take yourself too seriously. A lot of stress, I think, comes from people trying to attain perfection and taking themselves too seriously. You know, imbalance, bit of self-deprecation, and that sort of sense of humour. Yeah,
That brings you home. So
Yeah,
11-year-old Dave's got plenty of accomplices then. And you're running riot, I imagine, around a comprehensive school.
Probably not by 11, but give it a couple of years. Yeah, it turned into a bit of a sod.
Did you enjoy school?
No, but I didn't hate it.
Right.
No, not a massive score.
So sports or academic?
Yeah,
or...
sports. Yeah. South Yorkshire 800 metre champion, me.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Is that something you knew you were good at, or did you just win a race and think, "Oh, I'm winning"?
Yeah,
this?
so you have sports day, don't you? And he used to beat everyone.
And did you stick with that? Did you go to a club or anything like that? Or?
So yeah, I took it seriously between the ages of. I got a weird injury when about 10. By about 11 to 15, took that really seriously, and then I was out doing up to no good at 15. You know, as you grow up and you get more freedom, and everybody's sort of same, and so that took a second place.
And did your mum and dad support you with the athletics then when you got into that?
Absolutely, mate. Yeah,
Were they excited for you and like getting your spikes and things like that? And
the cool thing about athletics is you get all the clubs there. You have a big meet, so even though you're a young kid, you run in front of a stand with about 2,000-3,000 people. Yeah, and they could be as noisy as you like, but you still hear my mum. Big mouth.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice.
Yeah.
So when you get to 15 then, and you're starting to become mischievous a little bit,
Yeah.
what, like...
You have to be careful what you say now, because this is all.
Well, this is all allegedly. This is allegedly. This is allegedly, kids.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But this is allegedly. You know.
I would be doing all sorts. You know, far too young to do with youth club and hanging around with people that were. I mean, people in their early 20s there. Yeah, but we were starting to mess about with drugs, and that predated 15. So yeah, that was unfortunate. You know?
And is that alcohol first, Dave? What's the first thing that
No, back in them days, alcohol was seen as a bit of a thing of the past. You know, there was a definite around the late 80s, early 90s. There was a definite big gap between generations of people that were in the late teens and people in the mid 20s. You don't. I don't sure. I bet there's other eras that are like that, but the people over 25 all had permed hair and were wearing shiny suits and into Spandau Ballet, you know what I mean? And we were all knocking about in trainers and a bit like people dress now, and it was a completely different way of what people wanted to do when
so
they went out.
what time era is that then? So when you're that age, where are we? Late 80s?
Yeah, late 80s.
Late 80s.
Yeah,
so I guess we're starting
yeah.
to move towards like baggy culture and kind of Manchester and that kind of acid influx of just, you know.
Yeah.
That's interesting then. So,
and then you had a few people older than us that all had, you know, blokes with perms.
Yeah. An eyeliner and that.
Not eyeliner, no, just dressed like Miami Vice, you know, all shiny suits and dressed up to the hilt. And we called them the Brew Crew. And they were all into the drink, and you'd see them fighting and all that. But no, we were smoking ganja. Unfortunately, I mean, I smoked heroin at 14.
14 years old?
Yeah.
What, one off, or did that kick you on? Or
bits and bobs, mate, and which is way too young.
What was the cultural kind of perspective on it at that time? Was it
innocent, mate? Innocent, because en masse. That was the start of lots of people en masse taking drugs. Before then, it was more, I can't really remember, but it was more hippies, college students, people behind closed doors. But suddenly, it became a cool thing to do for everybody to do.
Accessible to the people on the street,
Accessible
as opposed
as well.
to bands and artists and all people.
I think Morrissey. There's a lyric in a Morrissey song that says something about didn't even know what drugs were when he was a kid, and that's just a sign of the times. Yeah, you might want to try it, but you couldn't get it. You know,
of course,
I mean?
yeah.
But yeah, it just started being everywhere, and unfortunately, the way you are in South Yorkshire is a bit of, if something's good, let's just do it all the time and let's do it to a ridiculous level. Do you know what I mean? There's a definite lack of sense amongst people from South Yorkshire, definitely. I think that's, you know.
Was there a big jump for you then? So if you guys are sort of sat around, I guess you're 15 or however long, 13, 14, you're kicking around on parks, you're maybe smoking some dope.
Yeah.
And
Taking
then,
loads of acid.
okay, and you're doing that as well?
Oh, it used to bash that, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I've done 200-300 trips in my life.
So do you think when you first take acid,
Yeah.
which is, especially with the research and the knowledge we've got of like psychedelics now, with all the research that people like MAPS have been doing.
This is the thing, Sam. This is the thing.
When you're 14,
people are a bit more armed with knowledge now.
Yeah, in the
Go on, sorry.
in the late 80s, you kind of
Didn't know what
you
was
don't know.
happening.
Yeah, you're just seeing some crazy shit and fucking this is
I
mad.
remember a New Order lyric where it said we were dealing in the limits, but we didn't really know what they were. That sort of summed that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
We were messing about with acute levels of drugs, but we didn't know it. There was nothing to look around to people that had come out the other side or were in trouble. It took a few years before people were in trouble. I personally, a couple of my friends, and you might be the same, but they had, you know, really acute problems psychologically. One guy, he just totally lost it. You know, the stuff he used to come out with, what he taught was frightening. In the end, he snuck into some girl's house when she didn't know, and he was under a bed. He just popped out, you know, and he was judged to be a danger to the public, so he just got locked away for 6 months.
and is he doing that just for the crack, like having a crack? And
No, he didn't know what he was doing.
He didn't know
had
what he
some
was doing.
paranoid delusion that she fancied him.
Right.
Yeah, and
I see.
he'd gone on his own mental trip and filled in the blanks, which was totally inappropriate. And this poor lass was minding her own business in the bedroom, and out pops
Jesus, yeah.
Laddo there, you know what I mean? Hello.
The boogeyman's
So
literally under
she
your
called
bed.
the police, and when you're up to stuff like that, you know,
Yeah.
the system kicks in and you're just removed. My mate Cole, he had a nervous breakdown. He's never been right up to this day.
And is this when you say you started taking acid? Is this off the back of that particularly, or is it accumulation of just
acid, ecstasy, amphetamines? You see, in Doncaster at the time, everyone's injecting amphetamines.
wow?
You know what I mean? We're not just
Hardcore.
not putting it up the nose. That's for idiots. You know what I mean? We're Doncaster.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sensible.
No.
So we're all injecting amphetamines,
Right.
taking acid, going to raves, and thinking there's no consequences, because that's what I'm saying. It's totally innocent.
So the environments that you're doing these things in, you're off to raves, you're going to events, are you around people's houses? Are
Well, you had
in-
the BYO in Doncaster.
Bring your own, yeah, for people listening.
Which I've been on holiday and met people that's been there.
Famous for the rave scene.
It is,
yeah.
mate. isn't it?
Massive, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a few raves about, you know, around Mansfield area, out towards the East Coast.
And would these be kind of free
But
party kind of raves, yeah?
That was just part of it. We're taking this on a daily basis. I remember one summer, and I used to sell acid, so we were just medicating ourselves just as normal for breakfast. You know, we were getting through 4 and 5 trips a day, and just unfortunately with the attitude that there's no downsides to this. This is just 60s hippieville. Everybody, it's all about love, and everybody's going to be okay. And obviously now, we've got the knowledge to know that's completely inappropriate. You know.
So how long a period? So let's just try and frame this a little bit then. So we were kind of talking. You're 15, bit of mischief happens, but you mentioned drugs get involved. So what's the steps? Is it like kicking about in a park, having a smoke of dope, and then someone says, "Look, I've got some of these fucking crazy little mini stamps. Look, if you lick one of these, you'll be seeing dragons in an hour." Or is it like, does the heroin? What order? How does this play out? What's the order? Is it? When do you? I mean, because
many different things, but at the time, the 60s were in vogue.
Mm-hmm.
All your heroes, all your bands were taking drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So many different factors, and it all culminated to, you know, shall I take drugs? Massive tick in the box. Yeah, this is cool. And like I say, it's sent to be consequence free. until people started having massive problems.
Were you despondent in your life at that point? Were you
No.
So you weren't like unhappy.
No.
You said you had a great
No.
childhood. You know. So how's it going?
Yeah.
Are you starting to? Are the signs starting to show to mum and dad? Thank you, Dave. Dave's just
Good
passing
to
me
hear
a
that.
lovely
Love and hate
vocation
from Yorkshire.
It's a Yorkshire pale
It's a
ale.
hazy American style, fruity.
Yeah, we are drinking some strong pale ale as this unfolds this podcast. So bear with us. So as you're starting to take these drugs and the drugs are getting heavier and more consistent, are you still in school at this point? So you're not. It's not like you're trying to hold down a job or anything.
Not really. No. School, it was intermittent. There was a lot of cannabis use. There was the odd bit and this. There was acid. Everything I've said, but in quite small amounts.
Yeah.
But once you're leaving school, I then started selling acid around town and making a bit of money. You know, enough money to make
To
sure
do your own and pay
and
for your
sort
weekend.
your friends out. But yeah, the overriding factor that I remember from that time was this consequence-free attitude. You know what I mean? We knew heroin was bad, cocaine, these sorts of things, but they were around, so you could just get your hands on them. So that put a barrier between frequent use in that. But all the other thing was all, this is okay. It's never going to do you any harm. You know, we thought we'd found some key to just having a great life and doing all these things. You know what I mean? And obviously, as time, it was one big experiment, wasn't it? Everybody's taking drugs en masse.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that second burst in the late 80s when it does become more accessible to, because even when you think about the 60s, I mean, a lot of it was legal then. You know, it was only 1970 when they boshed heroin on the head for being, psychedelics certainly. I'm not sure about heroin, but certainly psychedelics. You know, and people were at Woodstock and what have you, and that was legal.
Yeah.
When the late 80s and the acid house and the music culture starts to turn again, you know, it's the party drugs, the MDMA, the ecstasy, you know, becomes such a regular kind of weekend rock star situation starts to appear. And there isn't a generation really that you can measure how that all affects. You know, people are, like you say, I guess guinea pigs in a way. You know, so you're leaving. You left school. Did you go into a job, an apprenticeship? Are you doing anything like that, or are you're in
Went
sixth
to
form?
sixth form, got thrown out
So
virtually immediately.
So are you selling? You're making your way doing petty bits
Doing
for you
that
and your
thing,
mates.
selling, yeah.
And
that didn't last
is that
long.
your
Got expelled.
Is that your income? I'm trying to work out where you're at. So when you leave school, when the drugs are starting to kick in as a part of, you know, you're saying you're up and at it every day. Are you still living at home with mum and dad?
Yeah, so I'm living at home, so you ain't got many overheads, have you? So obviously I was making a bit of money, but I was
But you're not in a position. You're not working. You haven't got an apprenticeship.
No,
you're not.
I'm not. No, I was at sixth form.
Okay,
Yeah,
sixth form.
got thrown out of sixth form.
Yeah.
Went to Doncaster College, which at the time was another
To
thing
study what?
of that time. You went up to the refectory. They had all the lecturers on one side, and you were sat on the other side, and everyone's just smoking ganj. You know, the dinner ladies are coming up, serving you your food or taking your plates away, and you're all smoking ganj.
And it's all just regular,
I
normal.
remember people having 9 bars on table and chopping up deals and weighing them out, and you know, Mrs. Mop coming around and going, ooh.
Well, it's just part of the everyday.
You used to be able to smoke ganj in pubs, in cafes, you know, anywhere really, and it was just. Again, it all boils down to innocence.
So when you went to college, you just go in there because you can say you're going to college. What were you studying? You got anything in mind at all, or is it literally just fill in a blank? Like?
No, it was like it was like another form of social security when it was to keep you out of a job, keep you in a bit of money.
You're doing something, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I think I came out of college with an E in geography.
With an E in your pocket?
Yeah. Among other E's, I got an E in geography.
Okay, so how old are you then when college? You know, what happens when you get out of college? How old are you at this point? And I guess you're in full swing of party mode. And
yeah, got out of college and then just spent 2 years dossing.
And you're still at home at mum and dad's? How are they with you? Are they recognising you're going down a certain road?
Yeah, that relationship had just turned to. Yeah, that was really strained at that point because my dad was a definite. He knew what was going on and he didn't take any He was not going to accept that. He was not going to meet me halfway. He was completely against it. So yeah, that's one big regret actually in my life, because my dad died when I was 20, and a good part of probably 5 years before then, it was just your tea's ready, and there was not.
You're in
much
a
of
haze, I guess.
Relationship there, you know. It's not nice, you know what I mean. I was in the bog shoving needles in my arms, and you know what I mean.
Fucking hell, Dave.
Yeah, and apart from 6 months before he did die, when I got a job and I worked in a factory 12 hours a day, he started to have some respect for me, and we'd had a little bit of a relationship. But yeah, always make the effort with your parents, even if they're not, for your own sake, you know what I mean? Yeah, that was just timing that, though. He got taken away suddenly.
What happened with your dad, Dave?
My dad he had something called myelofibrosis, which I believe is a form of leukemia. And 1 minute it was here, there was a few symptoms of him feeling sick. He got a diagnosis, he went a bit to the hospital. And actually what happened was the treatment was giving him blood transfusions, and he got a blood transfusion with a bug in it. And went to the hospital, and the guy that had all his notes and everything like that had gone skiing, and he'd not made these available, so people didn't know how to treat him. It's a very rare condition. I think 6 people in South Yorkshire had this condition. They didn't know what was happening. So unfortunately, my dad, the way they described it to me, you've got red and white blood cells in your system, and one of those completely didn't exist. So everything in his body ruptured. Yeah, all his muscles and everything. I don't think there's no way you can understand the pain he was in when he passed for that last day. Yeah. God. But one thing I remember, though, in my house, when he was in that and he was twitching and he was obviously very ill and we were waiting for the ambulance, and I came in and I said, "How are you feeling?" Now, if somebody had asked me that in that section, I'd have told them to F off.
Yeah, you just launched a fucking... Yeah.
And my dad was just a sweet guy, you know what I mean? He's like, "I'm not very well, son," you know what I mean? And that's the last thing I said to him.
Oh, wow.
But, I'd take after my mum.
And how was your mum with that then? And how, obviously, if things had been difficult for you guys, I mean, you said it was stretched and there was tension. I'm guessing that they're thinking, "Come on, David, you can do better than this. And what are you doing with your life? What's going on?" And was it volatile, or was it kind of you just sort of...
Not volatile, because my dad set the tone at home, and he was not...
shouty, confrontational, kind of disciplinary.
Not your typical South Yorkshire guy.
Right.
No, hated all that. Hated people that had settled an argument by raising the voice, getting physical. Hated all that. Was never like that. You could always speak to him. Very calm. So it was always the odd word. "I know what you're up to. I don't want you doing this," etc. I knew that it wasn't acceptable, but no, there was no histrionics really. No.
And what about your mum? Did it put strain between those two, do you think? Was your mum kind of like, was she on your dad's side saying, "David, what are you doing?" Or was she like, lay off him, you know? Yeah,
so my mum's a bit strange. Yeah, she's the maternal person in my family was my dad. Yeah,
okay.
My mum's a bit strange like that. You know, I remember when we were having our first child, and Sarah's going on about maternity classes, and my mum's like, "What, you go to them?" You know what I mean? "What, you sit in a room full of pregnant women? What the effing are you doing?" You know what I mean? She's just not like that. Sorry, where will that go? What did she say?
Just sort of trying to get, paint a bit of a picture there about the dynamics with your mum and dad. So we've got a good, you've described your dad as being this kind of, he's a Yorkshireman and he's got all the elements of hard working and honourable and integrity and everything, but he's not confrontational. He's not about judgment. He's about just.
Whereas my mum's a bit. She's more South Yorkshire. She's a bit more unpredictable and a bit mental, and you can't trust her with money.
So was she angry at you then?
She's got a mouth. She blows from hot to...
Would she be angry with you? Would she be volatile?
Yeah.
Would you get like the slipper when you get in out your head at 4 a.m?
No, there's never any of that.
No,
never any violence in my house. Yeah. My mum, my dad, that didn't happen. But yeah, my mum, she's complete opposite. And then as you can imagine, my mum was a bit younger than my dad. My dad was 62 when he died. My mum was 50 when she was widowed. And yeah, it just ripped her apart, mate. Ripped her apart.
That's my next question, How was
my
she?
relationship with her, she basically lived in a bottle of gin for about 2 years. She was on antidepressants. It ruined her, man. You know what I mean? Because my mum met my dad when she was 17, and she was a bit of a tearaway. My dad was a bit of a tearaway, but always had his head on in a certain
Managed
respect.
to get himself on track, kind of thing.
Yeah, was nobody's fault, my dad. So my mum relied on my dad. You know, he took care of the money. He always said, if we give your mum any money, we'll never have any because she's mental. You know what I mean? And so she relied on him a hell of a lot. He was. Yeah, to me, it was everything.
What was their dynamic together then? Do you have memories of like them cuddling in the kitchen and a real togetherness?
My wife's family, that's something I struggle with. You don't really see much affection between them. It's a different thing, and it's not competition. I'm not saying that's
of course. Humans are humans. Yeah.
My mum and dad, they never spent a night apart in my lifetime, and well, they wouldn't have before then. And yeah, cuddles, affection. They're both like we used to go out every weekend to the pub in the days when you could have 2 or 3 pints, and we'd sit in the car, and just them two telling stories, you'd be in stitches to the point where you couldn't breathe. You know,
really?
Amazing.
Oh, what a lovely thing! Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
So
it is, mate,
that makes a lot of sense then, because your dad to go so suddenly. You know, you're kind of on the rails. You know, or off the rails.
Yeah.
And it impacts your mum massively.
Well, that's when real drug addiction kicked in. I went to university, and then heroin came on the
You went to
scene.
university?
Don't look that surprised.
Okay. Well your story is bouncing around in that many places,
Yeah, I
Dave.
went to Wolverhampton University.
So what to study then? So what did you manage to salvage out of your education?
Mate. I didn't go to study anything.
But did you
It was not about education. It was about moving away from home, getting a pad, getting some money off the government, and having a good time.
But how did you must have had some groundwork in terms of grades or some kind of stature?
This is where the education system, right, has gone wrong on it. Because traditionally, and I mean, kids should know a bit better now, but certainly when I was brought up, if you went to university, you went for a reason and it led to a job and all the rest of it. By the time I went, and you had a lot of unemployment about it, was just, from what I could see, about getting kids off the dole. And all the standards dropped where you were letting anybody into university. Now, if you're not going to university at the end of the day for any reason, and you've not got the potential and that's not the right path for you, it shouldn't really be open. You know, back then we saw universities as institutions with a lot of integrity, and it was a place where you were going and it would benefit you. By the time I got there, any idiot was there, you know.
Do you think that's a contributing factor to today then, in the sense that now you've got to pay big money to get into there? Do you think it's gone full circle in the sense that we're not letting any old person come here and play the system and sort of
but that's only a financial constraint, isn't it?
Well, it is, but that tends to be what happens, isn't it? You know, if we find out sugar's bad for people, we don't try and educate people on don't put too much sugar in your body, we'll tax the sugar.
No, but if somebody has the potential to do something in their life in an educational sense, and that route through university is going to get them to where they want to go, that should be open to you. The financial side means actually there's people from certain backgrounds that are going to think twice about that because of the financial side, the loans and everything else. What I'm saying, back in the day, in in geography, why are you at university? Why is that? Why
were you studying,
is that offer
Dave?
on the? What was I studying?
What did you write down on the paper?
It was environmental science. Right now, what is that? Right, it was basically any science that pertained to the environment, which is everything. So it'd go right from environmental philosophy. It would be biology, chemistry, God knows what. You know what I mean? But at the end of it, you were sort of a master of all, jack of all trades, but master of none. It didn't really lead anywhere. You know, it was a big job.
Did you complete the course?
The government had paid out, the university had made money, and you were nowhere.
Did you complete the course?
Well, that's I've got myself to blame for that. No, I did a H&D. I completed that. I've got a grade somewhere, but it wasn't.
Did you take anything from the experience other than the free party? Did you take anything? Did you learn anything? Is there anything that inspired you in any way, even on reflection?
How do you mean inspired in what way?
I don't know. Maybe a tutor or a.
No, they're all deadheads. No.
Really?
Yeah. They're
Really?
all weirdos.
Just in a system, in a machine, just churning.
Yeah. So just playing the game, getting the money, and having no aspirations outside that.
Was your mum?
But it wasn't. The only thing I would learn is it was an opportunity that I wasted. So
your dad's passed. Your mum's broken. She's in the bottom of a gin bottle. You're off to university. Does that perk her up? Does that make her think, or is she neither in?
The whole thing was weird because my dad died in July and I went to university in September. Now I didn't tell anybody.
What, including your mum?
No, sorry, I didn't tell anybody that my dad had died.
Oh,
so you know when you go through a bereavement like that,
yeah.
and people always go on about when they've come through stuff like that about the support mechanisms and networks and everything. I went to university. You're meeting a load of people. It didn't seem the best thing to do to say, "Oh,
of course,
my head's up my arse. My dad has just died." Yeah, You know, these are kids, so I didn't tell anybody. People, even my closest friends, didn't learn this, and they learned through other reasons, not me. That for about a year afterwards. So it was weird. It was almost like I was in this alternate reality where my dad had actually died. It did spin me out a bit that I'd left that behind, and the reality had almost been buried. So I was at university, and in retrospect, that was not a good thing. And then you got heroin on the scene, which heroin in the short term solves everything.
Did it ever go anywhere from the first time you've used it? Was it kind of intermittently always around, or was there a big gap between, or did you go to it when your dad had passed?
Yeah. In Doncaster, you see, I moved to Wolverhampton. Wolverhampton was a bit of a capital of vice. In Doncaster, I didn't really have the chance to be at it full time because it wasn't available. But we moved to Wolverhampton, and unbeknown to me, Wolverhampton was a capital, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if, for instance, right, this is a funny story. I moved to Wolverhampton. I'm in the halls of residence, yeah? I switched my telly on. I've only been there half an hour, and there's this documentary on telly, Thatcher's Broken Britain, and it's about inner city areas and how completely ruined they are, you know what I mean, and people and all the social problems. And it's about Heathtown in Wolverhampton, right, which I can see out my window. So I'm thinking, Jesus. And I'd listened to all these stories on this documentary, and then it became apparent it's Wolverhampton, Heathtown, these houses. I'm looking out my window, fucking hell, that's it. And then following that, within minutes, I'm in my bathroom, I looked in the mirror, and there's this pair of hands coming through the window towards my stereo.
Really?
Yeah. And this has all happened within 45 minutes of me putting my key in.
Welcome to Wolverhampton.
Yeah. You know, it's a hell of a place. It was a baptism of fire. I thought I knew I was quite rough. Doncaster's a bit of a reputation, but no, there was guns about. There was
so with your own personal substance use, and when your dad died, you're partying, you're doing acid, you're doing E's, you're doing the raving. When he dies, do you feel a change? Are you drawn towards the heroin, or does heroin pop up when you're in Wolverhampton and you get on it? And do you feel like you're using it?
That's what it was, mate. Heroin, this is only 3-4 months down the line from my dad. Heroin pops up, it's readily available. You can get it any time you want. So I honestly don't think that I think I would have still been in trouble with whether my dad died or not. I've never blamed my dad, and I don't think that's been hard on myself. I think that's the truth. But yeah, when I went to Wolverhampton, it was right. And getting back to what I'm talking about with the Doncaster mentality. Let's get in there. Let's do it. Let's do it to the max. I'll be okay. I'm big and strong. I'm tough. I'll be all right. And through all those drugs, that train of thought had actually come to fruition and been okay. But with heroin, it's a totally different.
Well, by the
scenario.
biological pull is completely
and back
different,
then,
isn't it?
Sam, again, that innocence thing comes in where. Nowadays, you walk around Doncaster, there's heroin addicts all over, the homeless. This is not in any way anybody's going to think that's a good thing. The results of heroin are in front of your face. There is not a family in Doncaster that hasn't been affected directly or through friends and etc. that haven't got a good insight into that. Back then, there wasn't that. There was just Zammo off of Grange Hill. So I knew that it was a bad thing to do. I knew it could get me into trouble. But the actual details of that and exactly what was going to happen.
This is what's really interesting to me, because obviously so much of our culture and so many of the parents that live certainly in the UK, the narrative for drugs is driven by the salacious headline in the tabloid papers, and lots of parents, when they think of drugs, the image they conjure up is somebody in an empty squat in the dark with a needle hanging out their arm, and I'm thinking of you. You've painted this picture where mum and dad are loving, solid, everything's wonderful at home. It's pretty, bills are paid, there's no worries. Yeah. But heroin kind of turns your eye, and you think, I'll have a bash on that. But I kind of get it that you're saying, well, you lads were like, we'll try anything. I know that experience myself. I think there's such a narrative painted, and it's true to many degrees from what I know in my own experience, where heroin is something that we go towards because we're missing something. It's unusual that you're in a position, but I guess it's as simple as that. It's like, you'll just try whatever. Let's just try whatever. Yes. We're partying.
Yeah.
It's not like, I've got to fill this void necessarily, or I'm not loved at home or whatever.
So there was that thing with my dad. Yeah. I didn't take it because of that. But unfortunately, all the stuff I was going through psychologically, when I did take it, it wasn't the motivation, but when I did take it, that all went.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As anybody will tell you, that cotton wool thing about all your problems, all your troubles, gone.
Well, you're
suddenly filled with confidence, you're articulate, you're amazing, all the bullshit.
That's kind of where I'm getting at, because had you not done heroin before then, in the years preceding, and kind of in that willy-nilly, it doesn't matter what it is, let's just crack it on.
Yeah.
If you get to university and you're going through this with your dad not being there and heroin's there, is it something in that environment without that not prior knowledge that you dive into? I have
a strong belief that even if I'd have had all that knowledge and was pre-armed, I think I'm just predisposed as a person.
Do you think?
But I don't think I would have gone at it as hard and as recklessly. But with heroin, I would have still been in the shit. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I was going to say. There is that subliminally. I know you said you didn't seek it out to try and repair yourself, but when you did use it, you felt better. But is there a subliminal element there that, because you've experienced heroin, you know that when you take heroin, you turn into a cloud and you disappear. Yeah. So is there a subliminal element there? Maybe you're being strong. Maybe you're coping with how you're feeling, but when I smoke this, I ain't got to think about it, or I go to this place. Maybe subliminally there's something happening with that prior knowledge. I don't know. You
could be right, yeah.
Maybe.
I haven't thought about it in that aspect, you know what I mean? I'm not a big analyser of things and a dissector of what processes and mechanisms drive you to things.
And we can never know either, though, Dave. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. But
complex thing in it, the brain.
Fucking hell, yeah. I mean,
yours probably ain't, but
well, it's not complex in an academic sense, but it's fucking hell. I'm always trying to work my own. Because the weird thing is I'm looking in your eyes, you're looking in mine right now, and we're trying to meet somewhere, aren't we? But it's fucking, if you could lift yourself out of someone's and going, I always think of young people.
Do you know what, though? In life, what you just said there, ultimately, the only way you empathise and judge another person is by putting yourself trying to put yourself in their shoes. And what I've found in the past is that can be actually the worst thing possible, because, you are a product of your life, your experiences, your influences, which can be completely irrelevant to the person you're trying to understand. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a tricky one, that. But that is the way we understand other people, isn't it?
Well, it's funny you say that, because I mean, we're only, you know, as the time of we're doing this recording, there's only been a couple of podcasts gone out. You know, it's very early days for this podcast, but this podcast inception, its, you know, conceiving idea was this. It was me wandering through the world, like just wondering, like we're all kind of behind our eyes and in our skin, trying to work out this fucking journey of just miraculous fucking madness. Yeah, we're all feeling the same things in different ways and interpreting the same experiences in different ways, and then they collate and we carry them, and we then sort of mould them into our experience. And as you say, then we try and work out what's happening over there. Oh, I know what's happening over there because he's going through that thing. And I recognise that thing, so I can give him some advice, or maybe he could give me some advice, or maybe we can. But it is so complex that even that's what I'm coming to learn now. I always thought, because it's like yourself, I've had been exposed to some things, and you kind of start thinking, well, actually, I've seen a bit now, so I've got my head around this, and but the older I'm getting and the more I'm learning, especially when you have kids, is like.
Really, you know nothing.
Fuck all. Absolutely fucking nothing.
But then that is knowledge in itself, isn't it?
I think it was Plato or Socrates, one of them. Wisdom is knowing how little you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really...
But that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
You get to a certain age and, that conclusion, and that is knowledge in itself.
I guess.
It seems a bit counterintuitive.
What comes with that, though? I think what comes with that, Dave, is like a freedom. There's a freedom because you're not trying to connect the dots and underline it, and that's that.
Yes.
That's that. You kind of let things be a bit more, and just a sign of getting older, I guess.
Yeah.
So
that is an anecdote to things, though, isn't it? Not trying to. I don't try and analyse things too much. You know what I mean? And the wider world, I've been there where every conversation has been about the processes of the world and the injustices about the world and how it all works and how it all affects us and whether it's right or wrong and etc. But the older I get, and especially having kids, the less that becomes important, and the more it becomes just about living and getting what you can out of what's there, you know what I mean?
I totally agree.
And that's one thing. That's one cultural difference between Lincoln and Doncaster. Because of the life in Doncaster, a lot of people do just live for the moment, and I really miss that. You know what I mean? They haven't got a 5-year plan. They're not gazing into the future, seeing where they want to go because of the way life is, you know, and because of the futures might not be that rosy. They do live in the moment. And on the flip side of that, probably people in Doncaster could learn to be a bit more pragmatic and a bit less mouthy and a bit more. This is the
never-ending
from Lincoln.
The dichotomy. It really is, because to be present and to live in the moment is to let go of control to a degree, and it's surrender to the fact that it is what it is. And you mentioned kids, and I've got 3 kids too, and I'm really hyper aware now of trying to get that balance of like. Now, being present is important. And what I keep coming back to is what you said at the start of this conversation about work ethic. And this probably sounds unrelated totally, but like if I boil down what I see in culture, where I see where we are, as you just said, like living in the moment or planning for the future, there's a balance there to be had. But I think discipline of meaning and earning something and getting it for yourself, which in a culture that we've got now, because of our own ingenuity and our own creative technological fucking madness that we make everything comfortable and we make everything abundant and therefore easy, and therefore we become maybe less grateful, you know. So with my kids,
it's the yin and yang, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, you need pain to really appreciate pleasure, and all the rest.
Totally,
of it,
and trying to fine tune that balance.
Carry on that philosophy, and it's threaded through everything. You know, but work, too much stress is a bad thing. And you always hark to, well, I wish I'd be free. I wish I wasn't at work. And then that can be delivered to you, and suddenly life is just hollow, isn't it? And that can screw you up just as much. it's the old thing, isn't it? It's balance, really.
What you said
I would
there
have said.
about getting caught up in and we all go there, and I think you have to go there. You have to go there, like you just said. You can't see the light without the dark. Alan Watts does. Do you know Alan Watts, the English philosopher from kind of the 60s? I guess he was famed for bringing a lot of like Buddhist and Hindu philosophy to the West.
Okay.
And he is an English guy, very complex guy, and he ended up being a professor over in America, in California, and was a teacher of Eastern philosophy to the Western world.
Yeah.
But he's got a real sort of back catalogue now that people have clipped onto YouTube. So if you're listening and you're interested in that, I mean, people have done these beautiful little montage videos where nicking bits out of his lectures or taking full lectures and just putting lovely kind of global visuals to it,
Yeah.
sweeping across rainforests and just cultural imagery. But he's brilliant at taking this point that we're trying to articulate here in a little studio in Lincoln, with the wisdom of the Hindu and the Buddhism and the books that he's read and is just natural instinctual knowledge of, like, he simplifies this black and white, light and dark, pleasure and pain, other and you. And he's got these, there's check that out. There's no end of it out there. It's brilliant. But as you said a moment ago, before I digressed, like, when you get caught up in the whole working the world out and the conspiracies in the world, if you're lucky to sort of get to a point where you go, hang on a minute, fucking adverts and the TV shows, that can't be what the world really is. And maybe you read a book, maybe you catch a documentary, maybe you start thinking outside of the framework of what we're delivered through a tabloid newspaper and hey, it's Radio 1 and it's the morning breakfast show and this is the new like that whole kind of formulated. You go through that and you can get bogged down because then you start to fucking think, hang on a minute, what governments and monies and control and hierarchy and power.
You're not living, are you?
You're not.
You're not maximising what you in your present, aren't you? And
and I've grown up with friends, and lucky enough friends who have gone down the rabbit holes, and I think the internet's been a big part where we have access to information. But if you don't get through that and you get stuck down there and you fucking constantly got two fingers up to the world because it's fucking corrupt and it's it's having us over.
It's there, mate. It's not
and
changing.
You're here.
You're not going to change it. It's there, and
how you change it as individual, as you just said, and I know this from seeing bits and clips on your social medias and stuff. You're out there walking in the fields with your kids. You're on the beach with your kids. You're just with the most simplest of things.
Simple stuff,
family.
Man. Simple stuff.
And you've got to get there. And you can still read and keep up with what's going on, and career are going to do this or whatever if you want to do that.
Yeah.
But like once you know, it doesn't matter if we're talking about career or Trump or fucking whatever.
Yeah.
That's the world. The world is power corrupts.
Yeah.
And someone's always going to be on top. And generally the people on top are the people who are prepared to elbow you out the fucking way.
Yeah.
So build your own world inside this world and just know that you've got a glimmer of an amount of time.
Yeah.
And just put that love into your kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm totally with you on that one.
That's something I've really come around to trying to do,
Like, my greatest joy at the moment in my life is just shared experiences with my kids. You know what I mean? Doing something I've never done before and they've never done before. When I went away at Christmas, you know when we went camping up North Yorkshire? I told you about the seal colony at Ravenscourt.
Yes.
So I went down there. We went down about 8 o'clock in the morning. Down a massive cliff. It's about 150 metres, this cliff. There's nobody there. We get down. There's no seals on this little beach, what's immediate when the path ends. We just looked over a little rock, bit of earth or whatever it was. There's 150 seals there, just sat within 20 metres of you. I've never seen anything like that. My kids have never seen anything like that. And you're eyeballing each other with that vibe, you know what I mean?
Intense
Oh, and that,
that's powerful.
It brings you together.
So powerful.
It cements everything that's important, you know what
without
I mean?
language, without...
But it's the simple things. It doesn't cost money.
Mm-hmm.
And going forward in life, especially the way this country is, it's obvious over the last 20 years there's less and less money about, so if you're orientated around money and it's about flash holidays and stuff like that, you're going to struggle because you can't pay for it. Whereas if you implant in your kids about the simple things, you'll always have options in life. you'll always be able to do something. You'll always be able to do something together. You know, that's really important to me. That it
just that story you're saying there, Dave. I mean, about you've gone down 150 meters or feet? Did you say
meters? So
that's some trek.
Do you know what? Do you do a lot of walking?
I'd like to say we do. We when we get out, we go out camping. You know, we try and get out camping a couple of 3 times a year. We take the kids walking locally quite a lot. We do walk. When I think of walking, I mean we're not trekking walkers at this point. You know, we're not out there for 6, 7, 8 hours across the moors and stuff. But we get out walking regularly, yeah. And when we're camping, we will get out and we'll do a bit.
But all I was going to say is, if you take me back 10 years, I didn't do anything. So what I'm telling you now, I would have that direction of, whoa, that's a big thing. But when you get used to it, no, it's not. And that's another thing in the world, that people become, it's very home-based, in it, and things that are attainable and are great, and certain people think nothing of it. If you haven't done it before, you think it's a big thing. But no, it was no big thing at all.
It ties into...
I've got a 3-year-old, haven't I?
Exactly, yeah. And she's out there trekking.
Yeah, I just shoved my foot up her ass at the top of the cliff and found
there
her at
you
the
go.
bottom.
Yeah, there you go. But I was going to say, with the kids especially, is like, because of what I mentioned earlier, the way we've simplified everything and made things easy, and there's screens everywhere and there's comfort everywhere.
Yeah.
A lot of young people, like if you say to a lot of young people, look, we're going to go and have a lovely walk, and there's some seals down here, but it's going to take us an hour to get there, and it's a bit blowy today, but put your coat on. A lot of the generations now, it's like that. You're fucking joking, aren't you?
So I think people are starting too late. You have to have them from day one, and it can be a struggle. Like my oldest, who's 8, right? You've never heard so much moaning from her all the time I've been doing this up to this point. And at Christmas was the first time when she's starts walking me and tells me she enjoyed it. But you have to invest that, and I've no proof, because that's the first one that's enjoyed it, but I would have thought it's worthwhile through my experiences with my dad and stuff like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think we're starting to see it as a culture now, as a society, where we are 2020 with, you know, let's say, even if we said 10 years of social media, that's starting to show its imprint into us now, into the way we behave. It's been shown with all the research. It's remapping our brains. Lots of young people who are gaming on the internet, who are girls especially, with the selfies and the whole kind of digital world, that's this underworld that we exist in as well. You know, like, I think we're starting to recognise that
it just drags you away from what's important.
Fucking just desperately,
you know,
desperately so, doesn't it? I mean, you see people, if you go, I don't know, a restaurant, a bus stop, a doctor's, whatever, and everyone's got their head in the phone, and I'm guilty of this, we're all guilty of it to a degree, but like what we're talking about here is young people, and I think we're starting to recognise it as a culture. You see Sarah, and you put in, Sarah's head pops up, like, and you know, it's like you've been chatting, something's been going on, we're in the tent, we're putting the beans on the hob or whatever, and someone's just like, maybe they're capturing, and you notice this at gigs, Dave, although I went to a gig recently, which I'll get to in a minute, and I was quite surprised how little there was phones in the air, which was really nice, because again, present but absent. I think we are recognising now that when we're down here sort of looking in here and we're taking the photo and we're doing our update and look where I am and look what's over here and look at this with this filter.
It's all missed, isn't it? It's gone back.
You're actually not here.
I
think that we're starting to get
the connection that's gone.
Yeah.
You know, the connection to whatever. Could be something amazing happening, and that connection's been corrupted because you're putting it through this filter of you taking pictures, your mind's on social media.
And I think it goes one step further than that even. It's not even that you're not there to take the positives of this experience, but I think it goes another 180 in the direction where you're trying to sell it to your peers, to your social group, that you are here. And then there's this whole kind of weird... well, look where I am, and I've got 15 likes, because, you know, like, and it's kind of like, even you're in regression at that point. It's like it becomes a psychological, almost, I don't know, like it's almost, I don't want to use too strong a word, but it's sociopathic almost in a way.
It's stripping you back. Kids have quite a binary process when it comes to pleasure and decision making, and as you grow older, it becomes more complex, doesn't it? And that's the joy in your development and evolution. But when you're an adult and you're engaging in social media, you become binary again, don't you? It's all about likes on your Facebook. Yeah, that is that's good, that's bad, and you're stripping away the things that are most that are greatest about
Meaningful.
us. Yeah,
the things that are actually meaningful and tangible and
yeah.
have rewards.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting tangent there.
And that's why it's so damaging when you introduce it to kids, because they haven't got that complex thought process to when they engage in looking at stuff on screens and stuff like that, to then think, well, what's the implications of this? Am I missing out? They just think, this is good, I'll do it all the time. That's a binary thing, isn't it? Yeah, this is good. This is I'm getting pleasure from this. Bang, I'm going to do this. All
It's
the
like you say, if you take I know my kids who are young, and you've got young kids, like if you give them the option, if you say, look, we can do, at this moment anyway, it's working for me, look, we can stay in and we can watch this movie, or we'll get your bikes and we'll go to the park. They'll choose the bikes every time.
Excellent.
Right? And there's a point, though, where if you don't manage that, it teeter over into, you forget the bikes because, you know what I mean? It's cold out there. And like you're saying, I guess you've got to get in there early and implement it. So you're at university. You're starting to use the golden brown again.
Yeah.
And it's getting more frequent. Are you?
Well, no, it just it started and it never stopped, mate. There was no build up to it. I went in full thing, and then I started selling it.
Was it?
But selling it to locals, not
was lots of people using it in your? I'm trying to pitch your circles. Like your peers using it. Is it something that's?
Well, at home in Doncaster, if I think of all my friends, probably a third of them ended up with long-term chronic addiction problems. So it's massive there. At university, there was the odd student, but what my best friend there, Gary, God bless him, he was from a place called Bilston. Bilston and Wolverhampton, it's seamless when you cross over. They're basically the same place, but Bilston's the real shithole bit, They've got it's another world down there. So he introduced me to all that, and before I even got to university, I was always the one that would sort out selling drugs. So it was just a natural progression. So I started knocking it out, and but to all the locals, which was hairy because they were all nutters. This was another world, and I was banging it out big time. I was not big time, but. Eventually, what happened was I was going back up to Doncaster to get it. Doncaster being like, if you think of that, the Bordeaux region in France and what that is to wine, that is to heroin, you know what I mean? It comes straight off the boat onto the Hull docks. Mm-hmm. It gets to Doncaster virtually unadulterated, and it's well documented at the strength of
the quality,
the quality. So I was taking that down to Birmingham, and I was an instant hit, But if you can imagine treading on people's toes that were around there, that are proper rough people, and they're messing about with guns and stuff like that, and they're not liking it, and my stuff was kicking what.
Did you have any repercussions with that? What was it?
Yeah, someone shot at me once. I don't think they shot at me. Shot above my head. You know what I mean? I'm still shitting myself about that now, 25 years later. To be quite honest,
is there mobile phones in use? I mean, what I'm trying to I'm trying to picture how this works. Is it like
the start of it, mate?
The start of mobile,
first mobile,
pagers
really
and shit like that. Did you have a pager and stuff? Did you ever have a pager?
Not a pager, a mobile.
Right.
So I'd surface from my pit about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to fix up and sort my habit out, which I would by then.
Are you smoking or are you pinning this?
So I put myself off intravenous drug use with the speed, really. I was well into that, and it's horrible, really. You have a sore arm, you have scabs and scars, and it's just not nice, you know what I mean? And that put me off that. So heroin was mainly smoking, or if some really nice gear came about, I'd treat myself. Not that you're treating yourself. But I would switch my phone off at 11 o'clock in the morning, and it just blew till it never stopped. I'd switch off at 2 in the morning. So I'd be going up to Doncaster, getting 4 ounces of heroin, which is quite a lot. You're talking about $3,000, and then shipping it down to Wolverhampton, bagging it up. And
are you taking it down personally? Are you literally bringing it back on your person?
Up my arse, mate.
Right.
The only thing you can do, because you're talking about a serious sentence, you'll get caught with that, so you shove it up your arse, and no respecting human beings going to mess with somebody's arse unless they have to. So you could get pulled by the police, but they weren't going to start.
Did you ever have
messing with
any
your
like
arse.
near misses? Any times when
Well,
you?
Lou was a bit for a few
Well,
days.
well, no, but I mean, I know this from just ferrying about art college and stuff. You know, when I'd have some dope on me or whatever, and like even
all the
you
time.
might just be stoned and old Bill are just in a lay-by somewhere, and all of a sudden you've.
I was a menace, mate. I remember once it was the early hours of the morning in a part of Wolverhampton near the centre, and I was doing a trip back from Doncaster, and the police pulled me, and they said I was just swerving all over the road. I was off my nut. But when they pulled you, because it's up your ass, you have no fear. You know,
When you're off, you're not on heroin or are you stoned?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Or I smashed a car on M18 once because I was so messed up. I leaned down to turn the stereo over and just passed out, and a lorry had come onto the slow lane in front of
Fucking
me.
hell, Dave.
And I hit that doing about 100.
Oh!
And it was probably doing about 40 or
How
something
did you
like
get
that.
out of that?
But, right, at the time, I must have had concussion or something, because I clearly remember getting out of the car, and it's parked and damaged on the slow lane, and you've got 2 lanes on the M1 at that
You
point.
hit the lorry.
Yeah, straight up the arse. Yeah, which woke me up. Anyway, but I
Jesus,
can
just
remember
woke me up.
staggering across the lanes, waving cars down for help, and them going either side of me with the horns going, 60, 70 miles an hour. Yeah, exactly. That sound there, yeah. I was a menace to myself.
How
and
did you get out of that? Were you not injured? Were you?
bit of I think I banged my knee. I remember this poor lass, she pulled over with her boyfriend and dragged me off the motorway and said, that's not sensible. And, she called the ambulance and I got taken away.
And was there any legal repercussions? Did they
I was a
drug test you?
prolific car smasher,
So you've been lucky then, really, because
I remember one car accident I got into at the time buying cars from the breakers. And this guy he was a smackhead, and he was doing loads of work, and we were flogging him for a bit of profit. Now, do you want me to tell you some cars? This is a bit trivial, really.
Chew the chat, Davey. Chew the chat.
This is silliness, really, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I had I had the smash that I'm talking about. I had an XR2, and I smashed it into the back of a lorry, and that was the end of that. It was,
pepper pot wheels on it, did it?
It did, mate. Yeah, it was a B reg, I think. Yeah. White. Yeah, it's all right.
Lovely.
Chugged along at 100 mile an hour, all right.
Yeah.
So that was smashed, that was gone. I already had a Mini Metro from before. And what I did with that, I'd lost the keys because I hadn't used it for a while. So I ripped the petrol cap off with a screwdriver or something like that. And I had to go back to Doncaster to do my trip. So logically, to me, my way of thinking, I just filled it with petrol and thought, wait, I'll not put anything over that. I'll just set off. The petrol will stay in the tank. So there's a big junction near Walsall where it's to do with the big main motorway around Birmingham, the M6, and it's a 3-lane junction, and you can go to Birmingham. You could get
It's
on
not
the
Spaghetti
motorway.
Junction, is it?
It isn't Spaghetti Junction, no.
Right.
No. But it's a big junction. I remember flying in a rush, and I was flying round the corner, and when you take a corner at speed and your car's leaning. Well, I think in retrospect, working it out, what have happened is the centrifugal effect of my car going round the corner dragged petrol out the tank, gone on the back wheel, so it just let go, mate, at the point of grip. The grip went from grip to nothing. So my car just started doing 160s, and this was rush hour, so there's cars all around me. I remember shutting my eyes, gripping the steering wheel, and just doing 180s.
Are you sober at this point, or are you under the influence?
Well, under the influence, yeah. But at that stage, I've got a serious addiction, so
You're just functioning, just functioning,
placating your withdrawal system symptoms. Really, you wouldn't be thought of as high. And so I shut my eyes, gripped the steering wheel, and there was an impact. I opened my eyes, expected to see cars and God knows what around me, but I'd 360'd across all 3 lanes and gone backwards into Armco barrier. smashed himself. And luckily, thank God, because now this isn't funny, you know what I mean? Acting like that innocent people can get hurt, you know, innocent, normal, nice people. So yeah, smashed the back of my car. But back then, yeah, I just drove to Doncaster and didn't think much of it, even though the back end of my car were hanging off. So that was the end of that car. This was about 4 days after the XR2, so it wasn't a good week. And then I had a car that we bought from the breakers yard from this kid called Steve. And so I started using that. It was a Ford Escort L or something like that. Flying down the road in a built-up area, and this transit van pulled out on me. So I hit the brakes, and this car, there must have been something wrong to it, so it just went 30 degrees to the left. And it was one of them places, all Victorian. It was just an unnaturally large curb. So I hit that, became airborne, went through a wall of an old Victorian sort of terrace and hit the house. And after the dust and everything settled, I opened my eyes, and unless my mind's playing tricks, you know, Little Britain and the lady, what's her name? I'm a lady, all dressed in the Victorians.
David Williams.
There's a couple of old dears, bless them, sat in the living room with one of those 3-tiered cake trays. I presume having morning tea or something. And they were. Yeah,
I shouldn't be laughing.
They were nonplussed at all. But then,
you didn't lean out the window and grab a slice of cake. Oh, Dave.
Right. So I staggers out the car, and I've got loads of drugs on me because I was on my way to go around a group of people waiting for me and all that. So I had loads of drugs on me. And this guy pops out in a house on the opposite side of the street and goes, "Don't worry, I saw it. It's not your fault. That guy was a maniac. I've called the police." I'm thinking, great, you know, that's not really one of it. So police turns up. I'm in this house with this woman mopping my brow.
You plugged, the drugs are plugged at this point.
Now they're just in my pocket.
Oh, Dave.
Yeah, because, yeah. So.
Is it diced up as well? Is it diced up at this point? Is it in separate entities ready to go?
All pocketed and wrapped up in.
Because when it's one lump, you've got a better chance of.
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh, so you're undrawn and quartered at this point.
Situation.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they didn't check that, right? Because I wasn't under suspicion of that. I was just a punter that had a road traffic accident. But this woman, copper turns up, and this bloke, she has one look at the car, and what must have happened with the car is the part of the chassis that had the vehicle number stamped into it must have gone rotten, so they've replaced the plate and re-stamped the number, but it looks dodgy, it looks like a ringer, right? So she comes back, "Your car's dodgy, it's a ringer, we're impounding that straight away, you're coming with me." So off I go to the police station.
Oh,
right?
carrying.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, carrying.
God.
But then what happens is she starts going on along the lines of it must be stolen and God knows what. So she's wanting to do an investigation. So I'm in this police then. I'm like, "Look, there's a receipt for this car in my flat, top drawer." She says, "Right, we'll go and check this out." Bearing in mind, at this point, before the police had turned up, I'd made a phone call to my mates that were in my flat, and they'd carried on the business that day. You know what I mean? But I said to them, "I am on the way to the police station, so make sure everything's kosher at my flat." But they're morons. So these police turn up, right, wander in, and they're in a full-on, you know, using situation.
Suspense now, yeah.
Everywhere, right? Yeah. And they go into the top drawer of the door, which contains this receipt for this car. It also contains about 1.5 ounces of heroin, right? Yeah. Which I have no way in my mind think this is going to go off. I've given strict instructions to sort the place out, and I'm off to the police station. So any illicit activities in that house is not a good idea. So all they saw was this police open the drawer and goes, apparently they said, "Oh, he likes to smoke." My two mates at this time just shot off like stabbed rats and went, you know what I mean?
Right.
So they came back to the police station. I don't know they find this scene and on what they found. They come back and they're like, "Yeah, we found the receipt. That's okay. You're free to go bar, when you go through the procedures and you're off. I rings my mate the next day and they're like totally perplexed why I'm not in prison. You know what I mean? And I went back to the flat and all the heroin and everything was still there. I can only conclude that these police were reaching the end of their shift and they thought, shit, if we have to process all this, we're going to be here for hours. And they just turned a blind eye to it.
Do you think they might have thought it was?
I don't know, mate. That's what I've just pieced.
Is it possible they could have misread it as dope and thought, it's innocuous kind of, like you're saying at the end? Because that's true. I've heard that many times. People have let things go because it's the end of a shift and I'm off on holiday. I remember listening to a podcast, in fact, where a guy got pulled in traffic on the list, wanted.
Yeah.
And he was pulled, and they rushed through a process because, mate, the copper was going on holiday.
Yeah. It could have been, mate. Who knows what happened? I'm incredibly lucky. That's all I can say.
Jesus Christ!
But this is the police for you, right? A bit of injustice here. They find out that the car's completely legal, and I crashed the car within 50 yards of my house, and they towed it away and impounded it. They wanted to charge me I had to pay 300 quid to get it back. And I think it was 30 quid a day storage or something.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But on balance, I can't complain too much.
So you're managing to survive.
So that was 3 cars gone. I think if I contact Guinness Book of World Records, writing off 3 in 10 days,
and getting out,
must be up there,
and
mate.
Getting out every time. I mean, I'm thinking now there's a merchandise opportunity here for T-shirts or memes on the internet or something where it's you opening your eyes, just see where am I, what's happened. You know what I mean? Puff of smoke and Dave opening his eyes and like, what
Dave's
is the scene?
Lottery ticket numbers this week. You know what I mean?
So you're going. This is all in the university years, then, and you're getting
heavy, normal university experience.
Heavy into selling heroin to the locals. You're getting involved with the urban culture of the underworld and stuff.
Few guns about, yeah.
Fucking hell, so it's pretty heavy. But you seem like someone's looking down on you.
Shit.
Whether it's your dad or someone is keeping you in some kind of lucky, safe.
That is the theme to my life, really. Luck, yeah. When I look at myself and some of my mates that their lives are absolutely destroyed, yeah, the standout factor is luck. I'd like to take credit for it and say that I'm some sort of survivor, I'm some sort of tough guy or whatever, but no, it's just complete luck. I mean, if you take all them experiences, when I look back, I equate it a bit like what my dad's mates used to say about national service. Yeah, national service to them blokes of that age would all say, I hated it at the time, but it did me a lot of good afterwards. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah,
and that was how I've come out of that. But for all those ups and downs, not to be so toxic that it destroyed me and married up to my characteristics, and for me to be able to handle that and come out of it it's for other people to say, well, I'm a better person, but yeah, probably a better person. Just look, mate.
Well, yeah, it definitely looks there, but I think you have to be where there is luck as well. I think there's an element. I think all the ingredients are necessary for luck. I think you make it to a degree, your karmic energy to a degree without getting too woo. I think there's definitely something to be said for it. There's out and out luck as well. Don't get me wrong. So coming back to this narrative arc of your life, then. So university years, I guess, are just fucking chaos like that. Mate, yeah. So at what point do you realise, hang on a minute, if I don't square this away here, am I going to get back? Are you recognising your friends dropping?
Them people had shot at me down that. I had a flat in a private area and they shot at. I don't think they shot at me. I never heard.
Yeah, but you got the scares. Yeah.
And there was police surveillance there. They were pretending to paint an house 2 doors down. They weren't painting an house. So it was just
coming on
that
top.
time on.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I got taxed. I lost a load of gear. So it all culminated for me finally drawing a line on this, and I'm off home. So I went back home with my tail between my legs to my poor mother, who had enough shit to cope with. And that's one thing that I'll always feel guilty about, causing my mum sleepless nights. It'd be too simplistic to say, I never robbed off her. I never did the obvious things.
Yeah, the traits that are associated generally with a smokehead.
Never did that. Never turned up with a van and cleared her house out. Never constantly hounding her for money and all stuff like that. When it became untenable, I moved away. I got out of her life, but still, it's not good enough. I caused her a lot of sleepless nights at a time that when it was an awful time for her. I'll never forgive myself for that.
So that period when you're away, is that a couple of years then at uni when you kind of your dad
4 years,
passes?
mate. 4 years.
So you did the 4 year spot.
Well, I did 2.5 years at university,
and then stuck around off the back of that. And
yeah.
were you working it? I mean, obviously, as we mentioned at the start of this conversation, you're now, you have your own business. You're MacGregor Electrics. You've got a family in place. You live a life that consists of just, as you said.
When you say it like that, it's
shared experiences. Well, it is, but I mean, I'm sure lots of people...
I've never really thought about it like that.
Lots of people listening to this, Dave, and this is why I love doing this podcast and having these conversations, is because once you get past the surface of our lives, once we get past the kind of, the general being of our lives, and you cut down into the details of what it is that makes. I mean, I've known you for a couple of years now through our trade association, through other people. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we don't know each other any more than what the capacity of the environment allows us, which is, I see, he loves music, you're working with us, we're working with you, and you're a good guy because I can measure you in the hour or two or the day I spend with you at times. And we might have little moments where I go, fucking hell, he knows that band and he sent me a link to that fucking gig and, you like Nick Cave, and wow. And you can get that far. But to sit down like this and actually, put headphones on and go into the arc of your life, there's something that comes out the other side that's like, fucking hell, you remember everybody's got a story, man, behind everybody's eyes. Everybody's been through some shit, and we all think to ourselves, a lot of people anyway, everybody else's life is this or that or the other. But we are all kind of, whatever that famous meme is,
shit is happening to us all.
Be kind, because everybody you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about, whatever that is, So you've done 4 years away, you've done the uni, but as you've mentioned, your education's just like, it's just a fucking ticket to jolly, basically. Have you got any aspirations in your head about what you might want to do, or have you just been making enough money to just do what you're doing?
It would just be impossible to have aspirations. My life was so chaotic and messed up that, aspirations just won't come into it, mate.
So you never thought, one day I would like to have my own...
I've always had a feeling, even in the depths of all that that wasn't the full story for me,
This can't be
And again, I go back to luck, right? Yeah, I have got a certain academical ability. I've just got the character traits in place that help me along the way and help me play life's game. Yeah, whereas a lot of my friends, for whatever reason and no fault of their own, they haven't got them. Now, I have not done anything to achieve that. I've not done anything to cultivate that. That's just me.
Intrinsic,
and it's luck. Yeah, there's too many people in the world that gives themselves credit for things that actually have just dropped in their lap. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, look, man. Look.
So, your 4-year tenure as a fucking raging lunatic student, heroin dealing, car crash. I mean, just before I do move on, musically, because obviously music is a big part of it.
Is that,
No, not at all. But what are you listening to during this time? Have you still got enough about you to want to explore music and discover music? Are you going to gigs? Are you still raving?
Yeah. Another thing, I was at university in Wolverhampton between 1995 and 98, and again, we're going back to luck here, right? The drum and bass scene basically was happening in North London, in Birmingham. And the hot spot in Birmingham was Wolverhampton, right? We used to go to clubs that the locals were putting on, and weird clubs. For some reason around Wolverhampton, there was all these clubs where I would say they were like Edwardian tea dance places. So you went in, they had stalls round the outside, and it was all centred round a dance floor, and it was a wooden dance floor, and it was very small. You've been to the lead mill, probably about that size, and I would say, you know, I might be wrong, but sort of Edwardian, in my head, tea dance places. And they were putting all this drum and bass on, right? And in Wolverhampton, in that small venue, and they had a back room which would even be smaller, you would see in Doc Scott. I was at a club one night where Africa Bombata had played down Birmingham.
Wow.
He was on the decks. Oops.
No worries, that's the mic.
And, Doc Scott, Groove Rider, LTJ Buckham, all these people were there in front of you, and the beach, you know what I mean? Amazing. And I was selling gear to all the DJs and stuff like that, so we were in the back rooms and in the DJ areas.
So you were, as far as
amazing,
again, a lot of people listening think of heroin when people are kind of what you might call addicts of heroin, sort of just managing to scurry from, you know, flat to flat and shoplifting expedition to flat and whatever, but you're out and about and you're in the mix and you're...
Well, heroin's down to money, right? If you get a rich person, they can be a heroin addict and you wouldn't even know because they've got the money to fund it. So all them shenanigans come with not having the money to pay for it, so you get into crime and it becomes so time-consuming, which is what I ended up doing when I moved back to Doncaster. But in Wolverhampton, because I was selling it, no, there was none of those constraints. So I was still going out. I was still taking other drugs. I said like a good thing, but you know. So yeah, we had some great times. Yeah, totally.
Clubbing. When you say you're taking other drugs, is that ecstasy and party drugs, and you're getting into the music? You're still feeling music. You're still
loads of ecstasy.
Elevated. Yeah. And would you
yeah.
do that together, or would you do the actually go home and then do?
No, there's just a group of us. You have like shared houses at university, don't you? So,
did you have some pals at uni?
Everyone were mashed.
Was there a couple of kids at uni who would do all of it with you? Because often you have like you've got a compadre, a brethren who's with
about
you.
3 or 4 of us. But Gary, I mentioned in the past, Gary. Yeah, he was from down Bilston, which is beyond my understanding at the time. It's a real rough place, you know. But yeah, he'd be there, and like all my childhood friendship, we're just drawn together through a shared interest in mischief, really. But yeah, Gary, he introduced me some colourful characters. There's some serious people down there. I remember one guy called Americo Gamboni. Yeah, I mean,
let's just take a moment.
Americo Bango, Rico, Googe. God knows what else we used to call him, but he was a family of Italian family. They'd come across from Italy, Italian immigrants. He'd been born in this country, Googe or Rico or whatever. He was about 5 years older than me, but his older brothers, who were hardcore football hooligans, they all spoke Italian. They were born in Italy. Frightening people. But Rico, he popped on the scene after I'd been around a couple of years in Wolverhampton, and he just popped out of prison because he'd done about 9 years for a serious case of manslaughter. Because him and his mates were fighting in town, and they got a fight going with a load of taxi drivers. And him and his friend jumped in one of the taxi drivers' car, drove off, and they ran one of the taxi drivers over and killed him in the middle of the street.
Jesus Christ.
So Rico, who's never my most favourite person, I've always been a person that, you know, these violent people and thugs, you know the sort of people where you start hanging.
Yeah.
But people always say, do you know him? Do you know him? And I'm always glad to say, no, I don't know him.
Yeah.
I don't want anything
Well, that's
to
like
know
your
him.
dad coming through, isn't it? Like you said earlier, in a way.
Yeah, I'm not...
you know, you're not celebrating that. There's nothing to be gained from...
violence, thuggery and all that. That's just naturally not my thing. Yeah. So, yeah, he was on the scene. Yeah, I remember him having me around the throat at one time, threatening to kill me.
So does that play a part in you, as you say, as you start to meet these more conspicuous and darker people, does that start to play a part in your internal dialogue of like, fucking hell, what world am I in here, actually? Does it start to kick in that way? Or because if you're not violently inclined, unfortunately, it's pretty synonymous that at some point where there's drugs, there's going to be violence, you know?
Like what I said to him... like what I've just said, he had me around the throat with his fist drawn on me. In them days, I had no fear of anything. Everybody else in the room, you could see their eyeballs popping out and thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen? But for some strange reason, I didn't, I think I'm normal now, but back in them days, I didn't really react to certain situations. It's a bit
You had
strange.
there's a cool about you, kind of just...
Yeah, not designed or anything like that.
No.
Just happened. I remember once when we'd gone on a far-flung mission to get some gear near Chesterfield, and we came down the road, and there was a big... Obviously, something had happened, an accident, and the traffic was queued up, and it wasn't too far ahead. So I wandered down, and there was what happened, a lorry had come down a hill and broadsided a car. He'd not seen the junction and just hit it full speed. And he and the car had ended up in the field. And the lorry driver was there. He was leant on his lorry having a fag. The ambulance was there, and there was loads of people there. And they were all going, don't go near the car, you know. One of them, like what you see on the films, it could explode.
Yeah.
It's been...
Yeah.
So the first thing I saw, because I didn't really have a reaction, so I'm thinking clinically, and it was a diesel. So diesels don't blow up. You know, diesel fuel doesn't, it only combusts under pressure, doesn't it? It doesn't combust...
for heat.
Yeah. So I just wandered over to the car, and I was testing the pulses of this old couple that were in there. They were dead and that, but...
Wow. So
we had that. I don't know why that is, but
and when you,
no reaction whatsoever.
When you find them, are you of sober mind at that point? Are you on your way back from a do? What was going on in your life at the point? Are you kind of... It's just a blur.
I'd always been like that. You know, if like people had seizures and stuff when we were getting out of hand and overdoses and stuff like that, and I would just be the first in and... It'd be no big deal.
You'd be pragmatic about it.
It'd be no big deal. I would sort it out and then look round and everybody be in bits. Saying, well,
what about emotionally? Are you like that emotionally with your internal family? No? So I don't know what that were all about. No, it's some kind of... Some coping mechanism of some degree, isn't it?
Yeah,
Who knows? So, fucking hell, let me just get my head together. An old couple just...
Oh, they were dead, yeah. Just died instantly.
And one
of them had blood coming out their ear. They were perfect. There wasn't a mark on them. But yeah,
impact.
They were
just
dead.
There's been
I pretty much knew they were dead, but the guy who we'd gone to see was living local, and it was on the local news, you know.
So that was my next question. Do you hang around? Are you like obliged to sort of stick around till the police come and everything, or is it a case of...
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. I've seen a few dead people in my time, though.
Really?
It's weird. You see things and you just adjust, don't you? You're a human being. Well, the human race would fall apart if you weren't able to make that adjustment and cope.
Well, that is one of the things that's obviously put us where we are, is our ability to just, realign ourselves to environments, into circumstances.
But again, going back to what I'm saying, that ability, that's just luck. That's just in me. You know what I mean? So... Everything I've gone through in life that I've been able to cope with on whatever, it's not been by design. It's been lucky that I've not had that overwhelming amount of experiences that's taken me over the edge and whatnot. And it's all been sort of married up to what I can cope with. But that is luck, mate.
So you go back to Doncaster when it gets hairy. Some crazy stuff's happening. Yeah. You get back to Doncaster. Your mum's upset. Are you aware that she's upset when you get back there? Do you start trying to build bridges? Are you trying to repair something? Do you look for direction?
Well, my mum didn't know what were happening at university. Yeah, I kept all that from her. Yeah, she was going through hell, and I never spoke about my feelings about my dad's death or what I was going through, because how do you burden somebody that's already going through that you love? Yeah, so you become a man, don't you? And you don't do that. And you just internalise it and take it on. So I came back there, and my intention was to kick the habit, but I was on £200-300 worth of heroin a day, and that didn't really equate to me of going back to the innocence of that time, and there not really being a massive heroin culture and examples that I could see. That was just something that I took on board, but it didn't work out. I couldn't kick the habit, you know what I mean? I was
You
just
couldn't?
incredibly
Even
ill.
with the mindset of like, right,
No.
the physical is too difficult.
Then became a really sad part of my life. I think, how old would I have been? 24, 25, and up until when I kicked, when I was about just before my 29th birthday. So you got 3 or 4 years there that was just pathetic, sad, living in bed sits, being homeless.
A cliche in a sense, in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. Just a pathetic period of my life. And at that point, it was obviously doing harm to my mum. My mum is one of them person where she initiated this. She says, look, I can't cope with this. Get out of my house. I don't want to see you again. Yeah, I don't want to, if you do get off the drugs, wait a few years before you come around. I don't want to see you. And I respected that and thought, at that point in time, that was the only thing I could do for my mum, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course,
you know
absolutely.
I wasn't
it does,
capable of doing anything else. So getting out of the way and not being around it was the only thing that I was able to do. So I did that, and I just led this pathetic life for 3 or 4 years, working shit jobs, selling drugs and doing whatever you could, you know what I mean?
So-
Nicking odd car stereo, shoplifting,
Yeah.
and up to all sorts of silliness, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
where you get into
And a
those.
few adventures along the way there, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well, give us an example of something there, Dave.
I remember once when I had a bit of a partner nicking car stereos, right? And he was what's the word? He was very brave on what he was doing. He'd nick them from anywhere, mate.
Right.
So he saw this car stereo, and he's like, right, I'm having that. And I was the lookout, and I ended up chatting to some bird, and I turned round, and he was being pulled backwards by his legs out the car window by some huge geezer. Yeah. And I had some half-assed attempt at smacking this geezer with an half Charlie brick, but, you know, I'm no answer that.
Yeah, you're in
But
you're in
most
territory
of
you
that
don't like
part of
being
my
in.
life, you know, it's not like Train Spot in the movie. It was pathetic, you know, pathetic.
Well, no, but again, you allude to the movie because I guess culturally that is a big sort of
Well, for some people, yeah.
There's a big framing of what that life must be, you know, for people who haven't been near it, I guess. And I thought, having watched it and having been exposed to that life, you know, that it didn't do a bad job of showing how the dynamics can just change even within the group. Do you know what I mean? Like the greed and the fucking distrust and the.
Because your experience is a different drug, isn't it? It's
well.
What's your most the drug that changed your life the most? Is it one particular drug, or is it?
I think for me, I was around where I lived, where I grew up. We weren't.
Where are you from?
We weren't. I was born down in Maidenhead, Taplow in Maidenhead, which is just on the
Kent.
Well, it's Berkshire, just 20 minutes north side of London. Well, north, just top side of London.
But where's your formative years?
My formative years are here in Lincoln City, where we sit right now. Top Ermine. So where I lived wasn't postcode Ermine. It was a road that was on the perimeter of the Ermine East. So you've got the two Ermines, Ermine West, Ermine East. My school was actually, there's a dividing road between the two Ermines.
Is this Rhizome Road?
Rhizome Road, and that's Yarborough School, which is now, I don't know what it is now, Castle Academy or something. So where I went to school was on that perimeter road, and then there's a Longdales Road, which is a perimeter road, which is where I lived. And then at the end of Longdales Road, you've got St Giles. So between those three estates, Ermine East, Ermine West, and St Giles, you know, some of the roughest parts of our city. So although our postcode didn't say that I was from those places, you go out my back gate and onto Our Lady's Field, and that's where we are, you know, that's where I am. Out my back gate, that's where I am. And when I go to school, that's where I am, you know, and that's where I was. You know, and without divulging into my life too much, you know, I loved being with my people down there, but I was exposed. You know, that's where high-rise buildings were, and you know, and I lived my life. My trajectory was that I lived with those people. You know, if I went inside my parental home, which wasn't, it was a dichotomy for me, because my mum, my family, they're from Windsor. Certainly different expectations.
I've lived just out off from there, Slough.
Yeah, there you go. Look, yeah, Reading, Maidenhead isn't far, you know, where I was actually born. So my mum had different expectations for me, and I don't think really realise where we were. And actually, you know, there's 1,200 kids in this school from around here, and everyone's just trying to survive and just get on with stuff. And as I got older and I left school, usual for me, I was similar to you, loved my art, went to art college, loved listening to music. I drank first, like most people. You know, and a lot of people say that marijuana is a gateway drug, but how I look at it and how I experienced it was that most kids just want to turn the page in how they feel, and it starts with 20/20 on the field or cider or whatever. And what's really happening is just like, you like how you don't feel how you normally feel. It's all gone a bit fuzzy and a bit wacky. That's how it started. Then someone says, oh, let's have a smoke. And you have a smoke, and that's a different kind of fuzzy and a different kind of wacky, you know. And then you're getting a bit older. I don't think it's necessarily, oh, this drug's not enough, I need this drug, for me anyway. And then for the people that I was around, it was like, well, this drug's accessible because, you know, we can smoke this, and it's like, you know, it's not, it's available. It's not a certain environment that dictates it. You get to 16, 17, 18, you start going out clubbing, you're starting to hear the music. Now it's like, oh, someone's got some speed or some bass or some whatever it is, you know, and then that's the right thing for this environment because the music's banging and we're just talking. And so I went through all of the usual stages, but I was around a lot of heroin use. You know, a lot of it, and saw everything play out. And that was at the time when Trainspotting came out. That was when I was at that age, you know. Like I think it was, what year was it? Was it 96, Trainspotting?
Something like that, no,
I think it was 96, maybe 90, somewhere 94, 95, 96, somewhere around there. You know, and I was 14, 15. It was, you know, and I watched a lot of people go through all those stages.
Yeah.
Coming back to your question with me with drugs, I mean, marijuana was always a drug for me that seemed to have, and this is with hindsight, seemed to be the one that I could get what I needed from it, which was just to turn the page, you know, like just get out of this processing, get everything done, just linear fucking processing state of mind that we're in. I guess to break it down to probably a lot of people is just, you know, they get home from work, they want a glass of wine, take the edge off, or a beer or whatever. Or a lot of guys like to go and scoop 10 pints, and whatever we're doing, we're just changing this process, aren't we, in our mind's eye? You know, we just want to change how we feel, want to change how we perceive things for a bit. So
escapism, they call it.
Yeah, marijuana was great for me with that. I never forget smoking marijuana for the first times in friends' flats, in friends' houses, when I, you know, listening to Pink Floyd and all the usual shit, you know. But yeah, all the party stuff happened, and I was in places where heroin was, and you know, I've got my experiences with that as well. But I never went down the lines that you went down. You know, I kind of knew once or twice, was like, whoa, yeah, and I've experienced that now, and I don't need to.
I think that's the advantage of the generation. You know, we're a few years apart. Yeah. But like I say, I think I always ended up on that path anyway, even if I'm your generation.
Totally, yeah. But I mean, no, I could do with one.
Yeah, my friend.
You know, like I'm reading a book at the moment. It's called.
You tried some of that one.
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah,
Nice,
County Lines. Yeah, that love-hate one's nice. What's this one?
That's just a Northern Monk.
We're talking to the Northern
New
Monk.
Age. It's like it's an Indian IPA.
Indian Pale Ale, yeah.
So it's more spicy and tasty. It's not the fruity one.
It's nice.
Good gear, Northern Monk.
It's strong. But yeah, I think, where was I then?
Not going down the lines of me, but escapism and breaking the... You see, what you've got we've briefly talked about your relationship with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's...
yeah, my expectation, my mum particularly, I mean, my parents broke up when I was 7, and I'm the oldest of at the time 3.
Yeah, yeah.
And from a young age, me and my mum never quite jived. She had these kind of high expectations and this kind of conventional, conservative.
In what way? Expectations in what area?
I just think she was. I think the culture had sold her the idea that, you know, unless you're a doctor and a pillar of the community, and, you know, with a mortgage and a nice car and an upstanding kind of solid, then you're not really where you need to be, kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And looking back, you know, we would fall out about things like, and for whatever reason, I came out kind of right hemisphere. You know, that's what they call left hemisphere, isn't it? When you're much more process minded, left hemisphere. I was kind of more. I mean, my dad, my biological dad, was like more of an artist and a you know, a much. Again, with hindsight, as I look back now, freer. My mum was just much more conventionally, you know, square. You know, what will the neighbours say, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I always, without knowing it at the time, I just wasn't where I was at. You know, I wanted to have a.
So she was voicing making these disappointed. Then.
Disappointed with me, yeah.
Well, that's tough, isn't it?
It is tough, and with hindsight now, and I was the oldest of 3, and I've always tried to be as honest as I can be about everything, you know. And we all tell our white lies and all that, but as a general kind of baseline for me is to just tell it as it is, because I think there's just less pain that way.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I do find that about you. Yeah.
You know, my mum. I remember my mum asking me about, you know, drugs and stuff when I got to like 17, and I just told her. I just said, "Yeah, I smoke marijuana, Mum." Because I've had a couple of years of going out with the lads and getting pissed up.
And that'd have been maybe a bit of a 2 fingers up to her, would it?
No, it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't really. No, I was living on my own at the time. I moved out pretty early. I think 17, maybe 18. But I was out of there pretty much because we would just fight all the time. I mean, when I look back, we would just always be fighting. Yeah. It might be something as innocuous as like, you will eat all of your dinner because if you're not leaving the table until you eat all this dinner, you know, and I don't want to get too crazy into it, but like that kind of theme, you know, you're not having that haircut because that's not suitable, and you know, and you're not going there with those people because I don't. So I was always kind of in a battle of like things that if you just let it happen, it'll all be worked out. And actually, when things went wrong, I'd probably come to you and we'd probably talk, and I'd probably feel like I could talk to you, and we could share this, and you could guide me and you could help me. But it kind of became this kind of like, I don't know. I'd get to the back door and I'd kind of morph into the version of myself that I had to be in that house. So coming back to my environment where I lived, you know, when I was with my peers, and, you know, I used to often envy, you might be at a friend's house after school and like, because they're, I guess, for want of a better analogy, they're rougher than my pedigree, my mum and that, do you know what I mean? I'm on the Ermine, I'm only 200 fucking yards from my house.
You're a bit in between there, aren't you?
Well, I am by design, because I'm not what my mum wants me to be. You know, we're from London. I remember getting told when I used to get home from school, it's not grass, it's grass, you know, things like that. Yeah. You know, and I'm not knocking my mum here because, you know, it is what it is, and my mum's always done her best by me, and it's just, we're just different in that way, and she's relaxed a lot over the years, and I think a lot of hindsight kicks in and all of that. But like, yeah, for me I was 2 people in many ways. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're not quite what your mates are you, living on that road and no,
all
I'm
the
not.
Rest of it,
and then they would pick up on that. They'd pick up on it. So then at school, it's like, this cunt, fucking Bath, you know, like, so I'm trying to fit into that. Then I get home and it's not Bath, it's Bath, you know, so I'm kind of like, fucking hell. And I remember mates coming calling for me, you know, and it would be like, oh,
you're
we're off down
really
the fair.
Middle class, and you're not.
No.
You're somewhere in between.
No. I mean, I'm just a kid who was born down south, who got moved up to the Midlands at 5 years old, right? So I've got an accent. I'm lumbered in with all these people who speak completely different, and my mum splits up and gets with a working class guy. So now I've got a stepdad who's just, you know, he's a working class local lad. So, and we live in a postcode area that's, it's not the Ermine, but it is. It is the Ermine because it's fucking, we're on the same field. Do you know what I mean? Like, so, and my school is bang on there. So I'm like with all of my friends, and it's kind of, this is where I am. This is my environment. So you adapt to your environment, you know. I mean, and I'm already having this intrinsically, I'm not jiving with my mum anyway. Never mind if I'm living on the Ermine or not. Like I want to be freer and play, whereas my mum wants it tidy and order. Do you know what I mean? So like the play will wait because this has got to be right. Don't get dirty. Those trainers are new. I don't want those trainers dirty. You don't play out in those. And do you know what I mean? All that kind of...
Nowhere in that world to find your identity then, is there?
Well,
with your friends or at home? Really,
no, and that's what my struggle. And maybe when I start to use drugs when I'm in my adolescence, I still like to think that... because I was always artistically minded, I've been in bands since I was like 13, you know.
Okay, yeah.
So I've always found, as we said at the start of this conversation, you know, you've got to have something in you to appreciate whatever that is, you know, that enigma of music and journey and whatever. But I like to think that my use of drugs was more to do with that, but I think maybe just feeling a bit lost. My dad had gone to Thailand. He lived fucking across the other side of the world. I had a great stepdad who I still have to this day, and in many ways I've got two dads. I feel really lucky in that way. But yeah, again, this podcast is built around this whole...
But you don't realise it at the time, do you?
No,
you know?
God, no.
When you get older and you have more sense of what life's... And you well, just generally you build up more experiences, which adds to more knowledge and you know, you become wiser. It's then really you get an insight. But at the time, you're just a kid, aren't you? And you just live in it.
Exactly. And I always say to my mum, you know, in the times when we did bang heads, you know, trying to work all this out, it would be like, I'm not saying I had a bad childhood, because I didn't have a bad childhood. I was really lucky in many ways. You know, like I say, I had two dads for a while, you know. We had, the mortgage was paid and we were clean and tidy and the washing was done and the food was there. We maybe just didn't have the patience, or I don't know how to frame it, like, but we said a couple of times in this conversation, recognising what's important, the simple things. Yeah. Maybe it's not getting the new extension.
Sounds like you're a bit lost on just people recognition for who you were. Really.
Well, I don't think we really knew who each other were, to be honest, Dave. You know, like, I've got a younger brother, one of my younger brothers, you know, the youngest of the three of us in that divorce. And he was at an age where he wasn't old enough to understand and knew his dad who was divorcing his mum, his biological dad. Right. And then again, timing, just, he was already into another family where two other young boys were being born reasonably quickly, you know, within like, I think about a 5-year period, I think. Two other little boys come along. So he was like 18 months old or whatever when the family divided, his nuclear family. And then these other two babies come along and he's still a toddler, a young boy. And I don't think he's ever felt part of anything. And not for any fault of his dad leaving or his mum having another family, but like just timing, just dynamics. So yeah, you know, without going too
that was
deep.
what I would describe a hard experience. What you're saying there. Yeah.
Well, that's a big part of this podcast, David. I'm just interested
fundamental, you know. That's that's not part of life's experiences. That's fundamental to who you are. You know,
they're the building blocks, aren't they? You know, and we talk about it often to this day. You know, and like all families, you know, when you get in and get inside and behind the curtain, you know, there's always difficulties to a degree, but it's the one thing I've learned today as we rebuild our relationships and we can start to recognise what has happened with hindsight and, as you say, with knowledge and experience, and we try and build our family back into, and it's something I'm always trying to promote, is like, let's spend time together. Let's just go camping. This year, instead of everybody being too busy, let's go camping. I mean, it sounds mundane and you can't take your fucking hair straighteners or whatever, but guess what? If you're sat around a campfire at fucking 10 o'clock tonight talking to your son Harry, you know, who maybe you don't know him. Yeah. Maybe if you find yourself around a campfire at 10 o'clock at night with a couple of glasses of wine and an acoustic guitar, maybe you'll find something out, because when we're just going through the formalities and, are you okay? Is everything okay? I just thought I'd just pop by. You know, how's work? You know, oh, good, yeah. Well, it's you know, so-and-so's birthday, so we're going to having a meal. You know, so you're going to be there. Yeah, don't forget a card. You know, and we kind of live our life via these obligatory kind of, absolutely, we don't really know each other. And that's where I've got to now, where
simple things.
My own family, I'm trying to implement, let's be together, as you've said. Let's go walking. Let's see what's behind this fucking cliff. And I'm trying to do that in my extended family, but you know,
life drags you away from the simple things, doesn't it? And deludes you into thinking that all this stuff important, and it's not. You know, you know. You
got to get back to the simple stuff. It's scary.
The most comical, like talking about TV adverts, the most comical thing I've seen in recent years was this advert that was this lass, she was crammed on a tube station. You know, her head was up some geezer's armpit and that, and she was contemplating a 12, 15-hour day in front of her. And what transpired in her mind, in her imagination to solve all this was a power shower. And after this power shower was installed in her house, everything was okay, you know what I mean? So this corruptness to do with commercial stuff and, you know...
Oh, those ideas, those means. We don't let our limits, they don't come in our house. We've never had that, luckily.
No,
but
no,
when my wife and I... we got together, we'd have that epiphany where we realised, do you know what? If we keep thinking like we all do, like the world is what the newspaper tabloid salacious headline says and what the news reiterates, ding, 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 tonight, a stabbing in Tooting in London and terrorists over here and paedophile. You know, if you frame the world like that and then in between you've just got singing oven chips and fucking insurance with Fatina windows and, you know, and have you tried and 2 for 1 and fucking, you know, and everybody needs this and if you haven't got this, you're not down with the fucking Joneses and
mind-blowing, isn't it? It's bullshit.
When you take that out and you eradicate it, and I mean it's often now when I go to see people, you know, outside of my immediate sphere, and I might end up in a hotel room for whatever reason, we're away somewhere and I flick the telly on or whatever, and you forget, you're like, fuck, there's 4 or 5 minutes of like, this is why you were insured with us and why you should have health insurance because, you know, and then bang, and then it's a singing pizza and a fucking, you know, blah, 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 and all these little hooks and ideas and memes just being pumped into your brains. And I forget. Coming back then to...
I mean, back to my child and my dad, you know, he would have just had egg boxes around the house, you know what I mean? It's just not important, you know. And your house was somewhere to feel safe and sound and to sleep and everything, but life was always what happened outside, really. Because, people these days... There's a lot of nest building going off and now kitchens and bathrooms and all this all this decorative stuff has come in, you know what I mean? And people are really bad nest builders and people invest so much in your homes, but you need that balance, man. It's all about experiences, doing things, doing whatever's in life and making the best of it. That's to me, that's what it's all about. And all that stuff, it's just a massive blag, innit? It's the same old story. It's just corrupted all that by commercialism and people wanting to make some money on you, you know.
Well, do you know what? For you to take us there after how we opened this conversation about arts and music and economics and the bottom line of just money drives everything. I think, you know,
that is it, man.
I did want. I mean, we are at 2 hours as well now. I wanted to get to a bit further with you and how you recovered. I mean, you framed it pretty much, you know, you've gone back to Doncaster, you've recognised in them 3 or 4 years that fucking this is no good, you know, you clearly must pull yourself together. As we sit here now, you're a family man, married with your 3 children, you're out walking, hiking, camping, you got your own business.
It's a bit surreal talking about it, really.
It's amazing, Dave. It's amazing, and what a celebratory thing, and I hope people listening to this, you know, don't be too shocked. I mean, I'm sure there's people listening and they've got their own narratives of what heroin might be, and they might be right in many cases, but it's not a broad stroke for everybody, you know.
No, there's lots of individuals.
It's a story of bringing it all back together, putting it together, and coming out the other side, and that's inspirational. And credit to you for it. Credit to you, and thank you for giving us this time. You know, I feel like we could keep going, and we probably will in the future. Because, like I say, I don't think we've even got half of it with you. But to bring it back there to what makes you happy, simple things.
Well, thank you,
family. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate this. I'm going to put some links in so people can find you, if you would like. We'll talk about that.
Do some electrics on your
home. if you need an electrician in your house to change some spotlights,
to overlook certain factors,
you know, and you want to have a good chat and a chinwag while you're having a cup of tea, having your electrics upgraded, then David's your man. But thank you very much for this. It's been awesome, and I think people will take away a lot from it, and I know I certainly have.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Dave. Peace. Thank you for listening to Chew the Chat podcast.
Thank you for listening to Chew the Cat podcast.
Chew the cat.
I want to say my own words.
Go on then.
Ah! Very angry.
Well, there you go. That was David MacGregor. He's got a cool story and he's a cool dude and he's got that Yorkshire straight down the line, dry, tell it how it is, no holes barred. I really like that about him. It's refreshing. And when he picked a few stitches out of my story, it was kind of made me think a little bit as well, which was nice. And yeah, we'll do it again with Dave. Having a drink was cool. We'd been somewhere that day and we were like, you know what? It's a Friday, the sun's shining. We've got some time. I said, do you want to come and sit down and we'll do your story? Because it's interesting, you know, the bits that I did know. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was great. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to hold you up, man. It's a weird time. We're all sick of talking about it. We just want to see some change, be the change. I mean, it's nice talking to your neighbours and getting to know people and jogging and running and walking dogs. It seems really nice, and I hope people are taking this time and maybe evaluating what we were doing before and maybe thinking, you know what, do I need to do that many hours, and do I need to, you know, maybe we can scratch a few things off that direct debit list and have a bit more of this time when we go, I don't want to say back to normal, but when we redeem some kind of, you know, ongoing procedures, I think might be nice if we can take some of this positive stuff that's happening, because there is some positive stuff. It's nice that we've all got time to reflect and have some family time. If you happen to be in a building with members of family that you're allowed to see. But anyway, it's all good. Thank you. Go deep. Obviously, just check flotation out, check cryotherapy out, Lincoln Cryo Lab. And the tune at the start, Tube Sound System, they're everywhere, you know, Spotify, all those places. The track's Preacher, it's Tube Sound System. Same on the socials. Check them out. Nice summer vibes, and that's all homemade produced music, which we need more of. It was nice to hear that real bass, you know, getting played. It was, you know, it's nice. So that's cool. Next episode is going to be another Four Brothers, because we've got some in the bag and we're brothers, and we, you know, we've done our quarantine and we can share our little stories here and there. And while we can't do anything else, that's what I want to do. We've got a couple more podcasts that we can share, and then hopefully we can get on and do some more. I might do some Skype ones over the phone, and get some decent audio that way. It's not something I'm over the moon about, but it might be what we do. We've got some interesting guests lined up, and maybe we'll do that. I know when I did Hardcore Listing recently, we just did it as a Skype phone call, but everybody set up their individual mics, so the audio will be cut as 3 separate tracks, so it should sound like any old podcast. So maybe if that comes out good, I'll maybe try that. We are moving into video. We've set up a rig in the studio with cameras, and it's possible that the next Four Brothers episode will come out as a full video episode. And like I said in the intro, I am nipping everything down now. Intros, outros, it's all getting nipped down. The length of the podcast, I want to make it a bit more tight for everybody. I have so many podcasts I listen to are long form podcasts, but I forget that they've built an audience and they've got a lot of people who want to hear everything. And I'm, you know, essentially coming out of the grass with nothing to prove, in the sense that I've got any credentials in any way to anybody to do this. So I shall nip it all up and tighten it up. But again, extended thank yous to everybody around the world listening, everybody in America, in Australia, in France, in Spain, obviously the UK, all around the UK, Thailand, Hong Kong. You know, it's fucking bonkers, and we love you for your time. And hopefully these stories, each week we're sort of building more and more trust with our listeners, and we're all taking something from these stories. So thank you once again, everybody. We will see you next time. Keep your eye on the YouTube page. Push people to the YouTube page. We've got some funny clips we had a protocol run out with the Four Brothers podcast, and we got some clips on there. Not the greatest set up, because we were just giving it a run out, but I think there's enough to give you an idea what happens in this studio. And certainly the next one we did with a rig, if we can get it edited together and it's all worked, that'll be an hour episode that might pop up next week on YouTube. So get yourself over there, give it a sub, check out some stuff, and give us a bit of support there. It'd be amazing. On the socials, you know the drill. So take care, everybody, stay safe, and may we find some kind of normal soon. Peace.